Hello and welcome back to another Milsurp HQ podcast. We're back from our summer hiatus where we were both just busy jet-setting around the world. I'm Tom, by the way, and as always, I'm joined by my main man, Kelly. What's up?
Howdy, Tom. It's good to be back.
Oh, yeah. So like I said, we've been enjoying our summer and traveling around the world, although I barely left my time zone, but, Kelly and our guest did more of real traveling. But when I did leave my time zone, it was to meet up with these guys at the Milsurp World Discord crew meetup over at the Casey Missouri Valley Arms Collectors Association gun show in Missouri. So we had a fun time there. But we'll get to that in a bit and share what we saw and our assessments and the market trends and all that. And also we'll get into some of our summer pickups and maybe even venture into our Kansas shooting trip. I don't know if we're going to get there. But it was Epic Range Day where it was like Christmas for me as I got to shoot a few famous firearms that were on my need to shoot grail list since I was gaming as a kid. So no spoilers, but one of them rhymes with Nem-16. So
now you're wanted in New York.
it's true. Before we get to Missouri and Kansas and all that, whatever we get to, we're going to go back to our elementary school style thinking and do some of our what I did on my summer vacation oral reports first, to explain where we've been the last few months. And we're lucky to have some of our good pals here to join us. So, Kelly, who came by?
So today we have Jake and Nick joining us. They both joined us at the Missouri Valley show, so they can talk to that as well. And both have had some good travel this summer. So welcome, Jake and Nick. Thank y'all for joining.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen.
How are we doing, everyone?
Woohoo!
And we'll go ahead and ask the question that we ask all of our guests is, what kind of collector are you? What, era? Are you one of those weird pattern collectors? So we'll start with you, Jake. How about that?
All right. I was afraid you to ask, but I think I have been coined the term accumulator. That's the type I am. Whatever's cool. I know you're like that, Kelly. Whatever's cool and neat and the interesting history. My primary interests, of course, stem back into the World War II era. I mean, this is like the late 90s. Saving Private Ryan was in theaters at this time. But until recently, I hadn't been able to really accumulate a lot of that myself. And natural progression into some of the World War I era, so that as well. And basically a historic military arms collector of multiple types, various sorts, different countries, and then even some extending back even pre-Great War. I do have a few niche interests that I feel near and dear to my heart of the World War II preoccupation allies, weapons, pistols, rifles, service rifles, which can be a little bit smaller segment to find. And also air services related stuff. So Air Force related, Luftwaffe, Army Air Corps, RAF, things of that sort. So I do have a few niche, focused collections, things like that. So not just too broad, but that kind of sums that up.
Do kind of like a little bit of everything.
Yeah. Okay. That's what my wife says too. A little bit too much, but
those I don't know many Air Force collectors though.
Yeah, air service is related. You could get really, I mean, I say that because it's, one of them is actually a Boeing plant guard pistol, which is super cool. But
that's pretty cool.
Yeah, and you can get a lot more than I have. It's definitely just a kind of a side niche thing, but I enjoy it. I used to be in aerospace myself, but yeah, that's a little bit about me.
Cool.
Very nice. All right, next up, we have Nick.
So I'm kind of like Jake as well. I collect a little bit of everything. My main collecting is really around the World War II era. I've tried to get as much as everything as I can that would fit in that time period. I do also go back before the Great War. I try to get a main rifle from every main country that was in that conflict. So, and I'm trying to really actually right now work on getting the sidearms to go with each main country from those conflicts to go with them. I've kind of gotten in a little bit of a niche on an Arasaka run recently, so that's kind of an interesting way I never thought I'd go down, but I'm kind of way as you, Kelly. If a good deal comes up, it's something you really can't pass on. So,
Oh yeah.
It's we all took different paths, but we all kind of are on the same journey now, where the collection grows so much. You start saying, "All right, I got have this one. I have to get this one, and I have to fill this." And we've all expanded beyond the war that we were focusing on at first. Oh well, guess it is that kind of hobby.
And every once in a while, something will pop up that's a firearm that's interesting in its own right, that was maybe an interwar gun or has some interesting histories. I have too many acquisitions this summer and barely keep track, but I mentioned it before, that Peabody Martini that had been sent to the Ottomans, captured by the Russians, captured by the Japanese from the Russians, and now it's in my room right now here in Kansas, so captured again from Japan, and made a world round trip, but interesting history, and spans a century, more than a century, which,
Yep.
oh gosh, I don't know if
That's
that's
what. Oh, sorry. Go ahead. Go ahead.
Oh, I was going to say that's a good segue into your next point of our world travels, but
Right. No, saying it makes me nervous handling them when you do all your research and you see the history on something, and you can trace it back 5 different owners, or armies or whatever, and now you have it on your next to you, and you can bang into it and knock it over and chip something on the wood.
yeah,
It's
you're allowed
like
one dent per decade, and you don't want to be the last guy to screw that gun up. That's pretty funny.
all right, let's get into our summer vacation oral reports here. And because I went to the least exciting places, I'm going to go first here. My first trip this summer was to Universal Studios in Florida for a couple of days, and then we went to a cruise to the Bahamas. Now, it is what it sounds like, and I don't have much to report about Universal Studios, except that there was no fireworks show this year. There was a drone show. You guys ever see one of these now? Wow.
Not just videos, yeah.
But
Yeah, I haven't
those
seen one in person yet.
Yeah, pretty amazing. You could see it from every angle. It's pretty bright. They're spelling words. They're drawing Disney characters. It's pretty cool. And the temperature was so hot. That's where my youngest son asked, "Do people really live here?" Because Florida was so hot, even the
Yeah,
natives were sweating.
that sounds about right.
So the Bahamas cruise was a little less hot, believe it or not, and it was a 3-day cruise. And it's a standard cruise for the most part. A lot of fun, drinking, swimming, games, food, shows. Everything a cruise has. But the one unique thing for me, I've been on a few cruises, but this one I let my wife fully plan, and I didn't even really ask questions. She just said, these are the dates." And to my shock, she got some sort of VIP shit, and we had one of those multi-floor, multi-room, 2-bathroom suites.
Damn,
Oh my goodness.
Yeah, with
fancy.
multiple balconies, and it was crazy. And then some VIP access all around the ship. You have like your own food, your own beverages, your own entrances. You skip lines. It was crazy. I'm afraid to ask her what she spent.
Who cares? That sounds like an amazing cruise.
Right. Looking back, I'm like, shit. I recommend that. That's the way to go. And
Don't even think about it.
Yeah, don't even think about it. Fuck the common folk. So if I planned it, it would have been like 2 full beds and a peephole or something, and I would have been like, "Hey, we got more money for gambling." But one unique thing we did there was we swam with the dolphins, and I got very close to having the dolphin's nose go right up my anus. I he he stopped at the very cusp. He slipped off my foot on the first try and went right up and went woo, and it was very intimate. So I got a second try though, and I went, halfway across the pool.
You thought about it.
Yeah, my butt was really clenched on that second try though. Let me tell you, I was very scared.
You shouldn't have worn your Speedos.
Yep, my bad.
Oops.
And my son's so light that he went next, and I guess it was geared up for my weight that he just pushed him like 9 miles across the water. He had to swim back. It's fun. But this led to my son asking me, "Is the Bahamas a country?" And you think that would be a very easy question, but it's sometimes called a country, but it's technically an independent commonwealth. And then you think, let's look that up, and that'll tell you exactly. But even that is a little difficult. What exactly is a commonwealth? A little confusing. But it led me down this rabbit hole of the Bahamas, and there were a few fascinating things in its history here that I wanted to share with you quick, and then I'll move it on to one of you guys. So a little story time here. So sit back, relax through the journey as the Bahamas search for its cash cow. Believe it or not, it took a long time. So we know Columbus landed here in the 15th century and did his well-documented stuff, the genocide and all that stuff. But long after that, in the 1600s, Britain got their hands on the islands. Shocking. And they used it to ship their persecuted Puritans. So those poor dudes were sent here. And that's one of the reasons why the Pilgrims left, was they were getting shipped to islands like this. They said, "You want to be free? Hey, you can be free. Go be free here." So then wars with Britain and France and Spain over the next 100 years wiped out most of these operations, and the whole settlements just was in disarray. And this was like this for a few decades, and the islands became the Republic of the Pirates. I'm talking Pirates of the Caribbean shit. So it was the literal place where pirates in the golden age of piracy hung out, like Blackbeard and Calico Jack and all these famous pirates. And they had at one point up to 1,000 pirates living here, and they were just picking off any ships that came by. It was pretty crazy. It was going well, except all the countries decided, forget it, let's not get close, and they avoided the islands. But then the British said, wait, that's a good spot. They came down, tried to take it over, but instead of just coming in guns a-blazing, they asked the pirates and offered them jobs and recruited them and said, we'll give you pardons if you'll work here. And they agreed. So all the pirates worked on the islands, and they gave them a bunch of slaves that they boated over and said, try to grow something. So they were running these islands with the pirates and the slaves. Wait, I think that was Super Bowl IV, right? The pirates and slaves? Oh, no, that's something else.
Can't call them that anymore, Tom.
Oh, wait, my bad. Could be mistaken. But they worked the islands for like decades. They couldn't grow anything. Fast forward, the British ends slavery, and now you have all these people standing around, the fingers up their asses. They can't really grow anything. And the British Empire, they freed the slaves, and then they said, well, now we have a bunch of free slaves running around. So they didn't want that, so they shipped them all to the Bahamas and a bunch of islands. It's pretty sad. So the island was full of all these freed slaves and British workers that didn't come back, and they had nothing to do there. They were looking for a legitimate way to make money. So again, decades and decades trying crops, industry, ships, furniture building. Nothing's working. Nothing could grow in their shitty soil. They tried citrus fruit, pineapples, tomatoes. So then during the Civil War, they made a little money. They would blockade French ships and trade it for money with the South and cotton. But then, the war ended in a few years. Then they were poor again. So they tried again for another 100 years. That's crazy. They were poor and had nothing for 100 years. They tried sponges at one point, and they were going good for a while. But then artificial sponges came out, and that was it. See ya. And interesting, during Prohibition in the 20s, they were one of the main places for Americans to get alcohol from. But, once it was legal again, they were poor again. So they thought that salvation came during World War II, when the Bahamas had the former British King, Edward VIII, who had just abdicated the throne because he married a divorcee. That's crazy. He was downgraded to the Duke of Windsor, and he was put in charge of the Bahamas. And he made this big speech like, yeah, I'm going to fix this place. It's a real shithole. And he and his wife lived there during the whole war, lived like kings, didn't fix a thing. And when the war ended, they left. The poor Bahamians couldn't catch a break until finally, after hundreds of years trying to find a way to make money, Cuba travel was banned in the 60s. And all those people that liked going to the Caribbean looked for a new vacation spot. And these idiots figured out what they had all along, the best commodity: beaches, sun, clear water. So tourism blew up. The country got wealthy. They kicked out the UK in 1973, and now tourism accounts for over 75% of their GDP. The Bahamas was saved. The end. That's my story of the Bahamas.
I did not do nearly as much research on my trip.
No, I was doing that on the boat, and so I had a lot of info. That brings us to a 30-second quick game. It's the AI quick trivia break-in. The AI quick trivia break-in. Just shout out the answers. You have 30 seconds as a team. Simple question here. Besides the Bahamas, can you name 5 of the countries that officially or unofficially start with the, including any ones that only have it when using English or variations in the zeitgeist, any 5. I'll say start, just shout them out. 30 seconds on the clock. Here we go. Go.
The United States of America.
I'll take it. Go.
The Netherlands.
Go.
The Philippines.
Ding. Go. That's 3.
Dutch East Indies, is that even a country?
Not on the
Nah.
list.
Territory. The United Kingdom.
Ding. Go. That's 4. One more.
The Japans.
The Seychelles.
Ooh.
I'll give it to you because that sometimes is on the list, sometimes it's not. 28 seconds. 28.43 seconds.
Ooh.
Got it. Under
Take
the
that,
buzzer.
AI.
So there's the Central African Republic.
The
People say
Congo.
the Czech Republic, although it's Czechia, and it's not that now. The Democratic Republic of the Congo, the Dominican Republic, the Gambia. How about that one? The Maldives and the Marshall Islands. A lot of people say the Ukraine. I would have accepted it. The United Arab Emirates, the United Mexican States, and that's it. You guys got the rest. Very nice. All right, so that was my Bahama trip. It was a hot Florida and hot Bahamas, but I still recommend it. 10 out of 10. All right, so who wants to go next? Maybe Kelly with his much further away from America, former British colony.
It was a former British colony, but it's literally on the opposite side of the planet from where I'm at, which I learned is called the antipode. So or antipode. There's a new word for you.
And where'd you go?
I went to Sri Lanka, which is the tiny little island off the southeastern coast of India. Well, not that tiny, but medium tiny.
It's pretty small. I don't know anyone who's ever gone there, so
Well, now you do.
tell away.
It's not really Milsurp related, but I did see a couple Milsurps while I was there. But yeah, it wasn't a Milsurp trip. It was a trip where we drove a tuk-tuk around the island as like part of they call it a rally, but it's more of a self-guided driving tour, and there's a bunch of people that you can hang out with at the same time. But there were 55 teams of 2 or 3 of us. There was me, my brother, and a friend. And if you don't know what a tuk-tuk is, it's a little 3-wheeled vehicle with a motorcycle, or not a motorcycle, a lawnmower engine, basically. And they're not cut out for long distance or off-road or anything like that, and that's precisely what you're supposed to do in this thing, is get lost and fuck up and break the machine and get it fixed and have an old school adventure. And
Wow.
it was a great time. Not quite as adventurous as we had hoped. We never even broke down. We just got like one flat tire. And we
But you're
never
still doing this through is it jungles? What is the
Yeah,
area?
there were jungles, there were beaches, there were kind of some of it looked like an African safari at some points. We did go on a couple safari trips and saw elephants and stuff.
And now, did you make it to the tea areas?
Yes, that was definitely my favorite part. And there in the central province and the Uva province, up in the mountains where you're doing all the switchback roads and it's fog everywhere. But yeah, there's tons of tea plantations everywhere, and it's so cool. And it felt great up there. You could do tea plantation tours, and you get like the freshest tea possible. And I brought a bunch back with me. It was so good.
The Ceylon region, right? Is that?
Yeah, Ceylon. They also grow cinnamon there, so I brought back some cinnamon, some other spices and stuff.
I'm literally sipping some Ceylon right now.
Nice, very nice. And of course, the British brought the tea. Actually, they used to grow coffee until a disease wiped all the coffee out. And the British brought tea over. They're like, here, grow this. And so, of course, they profited off of it. They were there until like after World War II, I think. So I guess they around the same time they left India.
Yeah, the story I looked them up, and the first story that popped up was how the Japanese bombed them, and the British troops there were weakened or whatever, so they declared their independence right at the end of the war to like take advantage of that.
Yeah, that sounds about right. So they did have like a national museum they went to, and there were some Milsurps there, mostly like flintlocks and muskets and stuff from like the before era, because they were also occupied by the Dutch, of course, because the Dutch are the Dutch, so they do that. Went to a Dutch fort that they built, and they had what was the Milsurp I saw? Like a 20 millimeter Oerlikon, however you say that, anti-aircraft gun. They like used to shoot down Japanese planes in the port there.
Now they famously have the Tamils or Tamils people,
Oh, yeah.
and
Yeah.
do you notice them there? Like they make up like 15% of the population now, but
So they're all in the north, and we didn't really go to the north because there was at one point a kind of a civil war like 30 years ago, and there's still like minefields and stuff up there. The one gun I saw like in person there was on the police, or no, they had a couple different guns, but the main rifle of the police there was the Chinese Type 56-2 AK. So they had like the cool bakelite folding stocks and stuff.
Cool.
And then they had, I think, Makarovs for pistols, and then like Smith & Wesson Model 10 revolvers.
wow. And how much was not knowing the language a hindrance?
I mean, it was a British colony, so English is the second language pretty much.
Sweet.
So not much of a hindrance.
When I was looking up the when they were independent to compare it to the Bahamas, it was 72. They became fully independent, and changed their name to Sri Lanka, and the Bahamas is 73. So Britain was losing all their shit at this time.
Yep, sounds about right. Good for them. Fucking Brits. But yeah, it was really cool. 55 teams from people all over the world. It was called the Rickshaw Run was the name of the event organized by the Adventurists, and they have a bunch of different events. So I'm hoping to go back to, well, at least one of their events. Maybe next year. They have one in Peru or Morocco, I'm thinking about, where you ride a little 50cc motorbike across the country.
That's crazy.
How did you find out about this?
My brother actually wrote me into it. He's like, "Hey, I want to do this thing. You're coming with me." I'm like, all right.
Ah,
All right, so I have no idea what they eat. I would assume I know there's a rice and curry meal that's all over the area there. What was like the main thing that you would say is the prevalent thing to eat around there?
Yeah, rice and curry is definitely number one. I was super pumped for the food because I like love Indian food and I love curry and stuff like that. And I was kind of disappointed actually because they have rice and curry, but that's like all they have, and it's like always the same. And it's like rice that's been like introduced to curry, so it has like just a little bit of curry flavor. And oh, that one right there that you were looking at, if you go down just a bit, that's kotu. That's the other like national dish. It's really good. All those little like square chunks, that's like a fried bread, so it's like fried rice, but instead of rice, it's bread. So like great hangover meal.
Oh.
So it's just like bread and like chicken and egg and veggies and stuff. Really good.
Yeah, that sounded good.
And since we were white and we were gringos, we had to like beg them to actually give us like spicy food. Because like if you order any food there, it's not going to be spicy unless you tell them like, "Hey, I want it spicy," and they'll add just like a little bit of spice. And they're like, "No, I want it like spicy, spicy. Like, give me like the real stuff." And they're like, "Are you sure? Are you sure?" You're like, "Yes, I want like the like curry sauce that goes on top of this," because they won't give it
Oh,
to you. You need
shit.
to tell them.
All right, and how
So
spicy is it when you do get it?
it's pretty spicy. It's like a spicy. It's a good spicy though. It hurts, but it's like a good hurt.
That's funny.
No, it was like just the right amount. It was excellent.
And you didn't get sick from any food?
No, and when nobody in our group got food poisoning or anything, the water there is supposedly fairly clean. We just drank bottled water the whole time or beer. And it's not much of a drinking culture, so kind of had to go out of our way to find liquor. But the liquor there is arak, which is like a distilled like coconut like flesh milk thing.
That's strong.
Not it's like it's kind of like rum, but like a little bit of coconut flavor to it. It's pretty good. I brought back a bottle.
Sweet. And something I learned, it was in Indiana Jones and the Temple of Doom. The bridge
Oh, okay. Huh.
was in Sri Lanka,
I did not see that bridge. That's pretty cool. Oh, bridge over the River
and the
Kwai was
bridge
there?
on the River Kwai.
What? How did I miss that? I would have totally gone and seen that.
It was the I can't even say it. Kitulgala, whatever
Hmm.
that may be.
Wonder where that was. That would have been cool to. Well, I guess the bridge isn't there anymore.
No. So that was cool. I always wonder where that was. I
Yeah.
wouldn't go. I don't know if I'd go over these bridges though.
Oh, I would. That looks fun.
Oh, jeez.
But yeah, not much in the way of Milsurp there. They mostly avoided all the world wars. There was a World War One monument in like the capital city. They actually sent like a group of, I think it was like schoolboys and their like teachers signed up to go fight in World War One for the British, and they had some casualties.
Oh,
There's like 30 of them, and like 13 got injured.
yeah. They screwed themselves up with their civil war. They've righted themselves now.
Yeah, other than that, pretty peaceful place. It was super safe, and like everyone knows India to be chaotic and hectic, and I mean the driving was a little chaotic, but other than that, people didn't like harass you for money or anything. Everyone was super friendly and nice. They're
Wow.
like, "Oh, you're from the U.S. U.S. Very good, very good." They love the U.S. and yeah, everyone super nice, friendly. Some guy invited into his house for tea and stuff.
Cool.
And
Yeah, one common denominator with the big foreign countries these days, the big cities in the foreign countries, is people asking you to buy shit and give money and hounding you, not taking
yeah, like
no.
even like the street vendors like are like, "Hey, you want to buy such and such?" You're like, "Oh, no, thanks," and they just leave you alone. Most places they like keep harassing you.
Yeah. All right.
Yeah,
So you recommend it?
definitely
So
recommend it. Beautiful country, super cheap, easy to get around. Just don't fuck with the buses; they will kill you.
awesome. That's cool. I don't know if I'll ever go, so I appreciate I appreciate you let me live through you. All right. So let's go now over to the Jaker
Oh yeah.
because you're next on this list.
Okay.
So Jaker, where did you and your wife head off to?
Where did she take me? We went back to España, Spain,
Ooh,
and I am. The history of Spain is really straightforward, right? Pretty simple. I'm kidding. It's not. There's this. You were going on the Bahamas history, which that it was really interesting, but Spain, yes, it's so interesting though. But there's this meme with SpongeBob in it, and it's kind of teasing America's history. The meme starts out with a little baby SpongeBob, 45 presidents and one civil war, and England is a little bit meaner looking SpongeBob with 61 kings and three civil wars. Then they have Russia, but then Spain comes in with one dictator, 32 civil wars, 23 revolutions, 12 revolts, and 9 coups. I don't even know what all that is, but
yeah.
uh,
When
so
when I
pretty
was
simple.
looking up your trip's history a little bit, I was like, holy shit, Spain goes way back.
Yeah. Well, and that map there, you can see the northern part of Africa gets intermixed with that culture. So I'm by no means an expert on this, but the different regions of Spain, actually, we got married in Spain in Barcelona, which is the upper, the north east corner there. Barcelona. So that's Catalonia. They even have their own take on the Spanish language, Catalonian. And
Wow, you got married there? I think
yeah, oh, back
forgot that.
back in the
Holy crap.
day. Yeah, yeah. That wasn't on this trip. Then you go to the by France. They're the northern border by France. That's the Basque region. We did a trip there last year. But this trip was Sevilla, so Seville, where that marker is, very far south in the Andalusian uh, province area. So that's Andalusia. So that's hot. That's pretty dang hot there. But it's kind of interesting. Spain's kind of mostly on the same latitude as a lot of Kansas, where I'm not at now. But we took that trip up from Seville to Madrid, which is its own area right in the center there, on their fast train, and the temperature difference was quite noticeable. So southern Spain, quite hot, and the history of Spain, how it progressed from when the going back to the Phoenicians. They always love to show you the history on the history and walking food tours that we do, my wife and I. And they have this cake with all the different layers, and starting out with the Phoenicians and the seafaring people, and then the Moors, the North Africans, came in, and the progression of how they conquered versus kicked out. It's kind of like a down from up, and then up from down, and sort of thing. So for many, many, many centuries, southern Spain was still under Moorish rule. So Arabic influences, Muslim influences are on tons of the architecture, intermixed with Hebrew from the Jewish population, intermixed with Catholic churches. And it's all together in these buildings a lot of times because they lived together and worked together for centuries, these people, even though they were really technically at war with various crusades. But these people lived together, so the Arab Moors would be some of the best builders, and they would be hired by the Jews to build their temple. And it's all in Arabic style, and the way Arabic mosques, if you've ever been to one, integrate words, very, very fancy, cursive, hard to read words that are from their holy books, the Quran, that are integrated into the architecture that are in some of these like Jewish temples and Catholic churches. So the interplay with all these cultures in Sevilla, and we also did Toledo, not the Ohio, sorry. It's just south of Madrid. Used to be the capital of Spain, and quite an interesting history there. Highly recommend Toledo.
And can you tell the difference instantly if you were standing in Sevilla and Madrid and Barcelona?
Yeah, Barcelona is a pretty industrial city that a lot of tourists go to because it's a giant cruise port. Hence, how our life, Kim and I started on our cruise with our family on our wedding out of Barcelona on a cruise ship. So a lot of tourists there, not necessarily in a good way, and it's kind of industrial, hard to walk around. Madrid is, of course, the capital, and pretty cosmopolitan, that's for sure. A lot harder to walk around. Tons of amazing history, of course, too. But Seville, that's just a nice, it's just a lot more down to earth, homely feeling. That's more of the siesta culture there because it gets so stinking hot. So they're a little bit.
If someone says they want to go to Spain, is there one of these cities that you can point to as
Ooh,
if you can only go to one, just go here, you'll get the best of.
they're all so different, but since it's so different, can I do two? Because
Sure.
Sevilla, if you want your Spanish experience, that's probably going to be more Seville. I would say, and I haven't been to all of them, but I haven't been to Valencia or Galicia, the northwest. But even Spanish people, I bought a thing from a guy from K98K Forum, hilariously enough, and he shipped it from Madrid. And he says that the San Sebastian region, up north, the Basque region by France, is his favorite. And him and I would probably tend to agree, but it is a lot less of your typical, what you think of Spanish, flamenco and things like that. But I would highly recommend San Sebastian, the Basque region. So that's a great question. But you want to go to Seville, it's going to be hot. Keep that in mind in the summer. They basically shut down a lot. So you have to be careful when you plan things to go to
It's just
Sevilla.
being too hot.
Yeah, it's really hot. And there's a lot to do, a lot of history, like I said, and then some little hidden Easter eggs. I should segue into this. Is now a good time to talk about my incredibly awesome Milsurp, my military firearms museum that I literally stumbled upon inside the Plaza de España. Um, that was hilariously lucky that I didn't even know that was there. You ready for that breakdown? Because
Yeah.
it's
That,
fun.
now the Plaza de España, I hear about it so often that I always thought, oh, that's from 16 something, 17 something. But it's from 1929.
19, yeah, like the late 20s, and
That's
it's
crazy.
the newest thing in Seville. It's not that old. It was,
It's
yeah, that's a great
popular
question.
though.
It is a very iconic scene. Lawrence of Arabia was filmed some there, and then one of the Star Wars movies. Oh, there's some paella you got there. There it
Wait.
is, at Plaza de España. So it was built for the American exhibition for the World's Fair, and
Oh,
so it's just super beautiful. You can do a rowboat on that river. That I have literally that picture I took because it's just so easy to take. There's your Star Wars
yeah. Star
R2D2.
Wars was there with R2. That's pretty
I was
interesting.
there too. R2D2 was there. That was so fun.
And Game of
Um,
Thrones. This is the Dorne Island of Dorne, whatever.
oh, okay. They Game of Thrones is everywhere. Lawrence of Arabia, right? Very, very
Yeah.
cool. So we've been there twice now, and it's not a long trip outside the main city of Sevilla. And it's just beautiful to look at. You walk around for 10, 20 minutes. Sometimes they have live flamenco, like right under that awning there, which we have videos of. And we go through Rick Steves pretty religiously, but I was like, what is actually in this
I love
big
Rick.
building? Yeah, yeah, Rick Steves, bless him. But what's actually in this building? Nobody ever goes in it. Nobody, never do that. You would think that it's an amazing giant, like
Well, there's so many picturesque photos through the archways.
yeah, through the arches. All the beauty's on the outside, really, I think. But government offices are mainly what it is, like Department of Agriculture. There was an immigration office, and these people waiting in line. It was kind of funny. Then I was like, okay, well, there's nothing interesting until I kind of just Googled while we were there in our hotel. Hilariously, didn't plan on this. Uh, Army Museum, Military Museum. And there's like on TripAdvisor just like a couple pictures, but from that I'm like, I've got to go to there. And we did. And it was just basically, if I could make a museum, it was chock full of arms from all over the world and big
Like
stuff,
from what
little
was the
stuff.
era? What was like from the history of time, or how far did it
Oh
go back?
gosh, let's see. So you walk in, and I have so many pictures. I should send you if you want to incorporate these in, but a lot of them are super high res. So it starts out treasure chests, Spanish gold treasure chests, ship-based like punt guns. Let's see, this one was from the
Yeah,
16th century.
blunderbusses.
This one was a giant ship-based punt gun, so a bunch of like matchlocks, flintlocks, a lot of Spanish swords, your conquistador type helmets, and then some wheeled small cannons. And then my next picture here I have is of a Mosin Nagant converted into a grenade launcher.
Whoa, cool.
That'd be cool.
And I was like, what in the world? They did that? They sure did. And then there's Astra pistols, modern. They have a Enigma machine,
Ooh, that's cool.
Maxims, lots of machine guns, French Hotchkiss, a couple Hotchkiss. Uh, I'm not a super big Spanish collector like guys like Len and Terrace, but I mean, I'm sure they have some really, really fancy ones. Looking at broom handle. Oh, this was the broom handle, uh, the C96 that was.
And how is Franco handled in that?
Ooh,
I know that city was a big nationalist city.
yeah.
So is do they ignore it and say my bad?
Yeah. Oh, great point. And we'll get to that in Madrid too about the Guernica, the city. But yeah, bringing up Franco, I think is typically not something so great to do. I think maybe more in the north. But yeah, that wasn't all that long ago for them.
Yeah,
And
I wonder, if
our
it's like,
tour,
don't mention it.
no, and some of our tours that we've done do a great in-depth job of explaining that what it was like living under that dictatorship. But yes, sometimes you blurt out the word Franco real loud and you're American tourists, you might get some looks. But yeah, there's definitely some families that were on one side or the other that, have
Well, I heard
issues.
Seville had Franco would meet with the Germans there. They had meeting points there.
I didn't even know that. And for that reason, he asked, Germans, I don't know all the deals, but the famous bombing of Guernica, the city that was more of the communist stronghold city, that the Luftwaffe bombed in, was that 36? What year was that? Bombing of Guernica. But the Astra pistols, I bought some from our well-known Dennis Crow, the mustached
Yeah.
Freshman.
Empire Arms. He had a email pop up while we were literally in the Royal Alcazar Royal Palace in Madrid, and I had to buy some Astra pistols from him. And I didn't know this, but they were made in Guernica.
Ooh.
And it says Guernica on the side, April 1937, and it's in the Basque region, so up north. We haven't been there. It's kind of out of the way. It's probably a lot of monuments there, but that was crazy in itself. But yeah, these Astra pistols were made in Guernica. And famously, skipping ahead to Madrid, I guess, the two big art museums in Madrid, the Prado, of course, and then the Reina Sofia. The big thing to see there that everybody looks at and gawks at is the Guernica painting from Picasso. So he painted that, and there's a lot of emotion and history into everything in that painting. So pretty interesting World War II. That's pre-World War II history, really. That ties in with Spain, Franco, and the Nazi government. But yeah, great question about that, because that's kind of a nuance that we don't typically think of in America. That's a little bit of a sore subject for them. This museum, though, was just all about the toys, the equipment. I mean, there were anti-aircraft weapons, mortars. There was even like a recoilless rifle of some, like a more modern one. There was some armored vehicle in there, I think. But they had stuff from America, France, Italy.
I know they had their Civil War in the 30s, and then they were neutral technically in World War II. So where were they fighting? Do you know where they were fighting after? I guess in the 50s and 60s.
You said they had their Civil War. Remember, there were 32 Civil Wars, so
Oh,
it's the
I meant
most recent one.
I meant
But,
the
it's a
Spanish
big,
Civil War. That
yeah,
one,
that one
not
was,
a Civil War.
yeah, that one was, great question. Spanish
So
Civil
it
War.
was Civil War the whole time. I know.
Yeah,
I guess Franco died in the 70s, so it was probably
yeah, that
interfighting until then.
it gets complex. We could spend hours talking about that, but what happened with that? The king that came back, but the most recent one was I'm having to look it up too. 36 to 39, which is kind of interesting too, because that one of the Astra pistols I got in 9 Largo, the model 1921, it was made in 1928. And a lot of the Astra pistols you'll find are going to have parentheses 400, and I'm no Astra collector, but those are going to be made kind of the World War era, but post Spanish Civil War. So, like you remember, I said I like pre-occupation or
Yeah.
wartime stuff. I thought that fit pretty nicely. So Dennis
Yeah,
Crow
that's
had
good.
one. Firearms.
Nice
Picked
and
up
early.
those two things. Picked up that, and then Astra made Ruby copy, and had those shipped to me after we got back. So, but
Yeah,
I
that's cool
must,
timing though.
yeah, it was very fun. I have a picture of the room we were in, of course, when I sent that email out to him, because you have to email him. But this Plaza de España, so one of those pictures, it's kind of right on the edge, and it's this military museum. You can look it up. There's not a lot of pictures. I can share a ton. I shared some on our little Discord community, but you could spend hours there. They had some uh, kind of recreated, soldiers in a bunker of kind of period correct looking things. Lots of belt fed machine guns. Super cool.
Sounds awesome.
You'll never see that in Rick Steves. Rick Steves doesn't typically go,
Right.
but so this is an Easter egg for all of you guys listening that ever in Seville, Plaza de España, must do, of course. Everybody goes there. Check out that Easter egg. It was fun.
Yeah, I wish I had known about that when I went to Spain. Didn't get to go to Sevilla, but
Oh yeah. Well, future trips.
Well, AI said one of the most popular things to do is attend the Holy Week. And I looked up photos of the Holy Week, and I just have one comment that they need to change their outfits. They have full on white pointed hoods and sometimes white robes.
That couldn't get misconstrued at all, could it?
So,
I guess
America.
the other organization had to get it from somewhere.
Yeah.
so maybe.
But that history of theirs and Inquisitions, the Civil War, everything, neighbor would be pitted against neighbor, and you had to be careful what you did and who you talked to, and they would report you, and you would get arrested. And for centuries, they've been living this way. So it's kind of really peculiar how neighbors interact with each other. It's not like some other countries. But gosh, the food there. So Iberican ham, acorn-fed pigs that have this black trotter foot. Amazing. Tapas, paella, of course. The Spanish wines are, of course, very famous. And then actually their vermouths.
Oh, I love their vermouth.
The vermouth is just interesting too. Oh, and Kelly, the olives.
Oh yeah, I've tried to find olives like that here, but I just can't.
And it's just everywhere there, and you're just flooded with amazing olives. And then you come back to America, and you're like, where are the good olives?
Yeah, I read something that they said the tapas in America is like 20-30% on par as they
Yeah,
on target
not even
as the
close.
ones over there.
Can't
It's
even
not-
find olives like that here.
No, it's not hitting on all the cylinders that they have because that.
Like the seafood is a lot different than meats.
Oh yeah, yeah.
Yeah, I love the vermouth. Nobody thinks of vermouth as something you just drink by itself. It's always an additive, but there they have it on tap. You just drink it over ice, and it's so good.
Right.
Really?
A lot of these old restaurants that are family run still for 100 or so years, they'll have their own specially made vermouth. You just have a small glass with an orange and a thing of ice, and you just have that kind of as a digestif for your stomach. That's kind of the idea. It's kind of an herbal, um, strong wine. That's what it is. It's quite different than what you get in America, typically, anyway. So, yeah, put that on your list. The food is amazing. The history is just the art.
And you're saying you went to Madrid as well. So while we're on food, who wins the food, Madrid or Sevilla?
Sevilla.
Oh,
I think.
wow.
I think so. Yeah. Don't tell anyone we actually had an Italian evening restaurant
What?
there. I was like, that is just. Yeah, she really wanted it. I was like, that was
I did have Taco Bell in Sri Lanka, and it was, not gonna lie, it's really good.
Wow.
That's funny. That's
Madrid.
Wow.
The Royal Palace is a worthwhile trip. But the Prado Art Museum is the one to go to. I mentioned the Reina Sevilla, which is more modern art for them. They have some Salvador Dali. But there's lots to do in Madrid, of course, too. But
the second person that said the same thing. If you have to do one, go to the Prado Museum.
Yes. If anything, get a small tour group, like $60, and you can be one of 10 or so people before their doors open, and that's kind of the way to do it. But it's quite good no matter what. No photography. I agree with them about that. But did a day trip to Toledo, to the south, which it's a lot smaller. It's more kind of medieval feeling, and it's famous for its sword making. So we mentioned Game of Thrones already and stuff.
Oh.
All those swords were made in Toledo, and for the films, and tons of
Hey,
stuff.
I have one. One of my bayonets from my 1893, I assume, 'cause I haven't tried it yet. Mauser says, I used to say Toledo, obviously,
Oh.
but it says it on there.
Yep, not surprised at all. I
That's
probably ought
awesome.
to. I don't have a bayonet for my Spanish stuff, but probably should get one from Toledo. Yeah, very
That's cool.
famous.
Old swords. That's nice.
Yeah, all the swords and armor. But the capital was there, so they have some very big, nice palace to go through as well. Well, the big thing there is their cathedral. Our tour guide said it's one of the biggest, either top five or was it the second Gothic cathedrals of the Gothic style and era. And then the wealth inside this cathedral is like second only to the Vatican, essentially. She was saying how gaudy and amazing it was looking. So that cathedral is quite amazing too. And of course, it's a giant ancient European cathedral. You can see those in a lot of cities, but this one is actually really, really big. You'd never think it's in Toledo, Ohio. I mean, Spain. But yeah, it's quite something.
Yeah, I remember the palace in Madrid still had bullet holes in it from the Civil War.
Oh yeah,
Whoa.
definitely. I took pictures of that. And Toledo has a cool military history museum on its own too. And I was so bummed because there was a fire. So if you're planning your trip to Toledo, be careful. There was a fire, and a lot of it's closed for restorations. I completely forgot that we actually had gone there before in our trip to Toledo in 2015 or so. I forgot when Kim and I went a long time ago. So I'd actually already been there. That's so funny. But
You've been to a lot. That's what that tells you.
too much, yeah, starting to forget. But I was going through my old pictures and I'm like, well, this says it's in Toledo. We've been there. So, and I kind of remembered it was a whirlwind of a vacation, but it's a worthwhile trip in Toledo for that kind of museum if you like that. And Madrid's Royal Palace has one too that's going to be, I think more. It was closed too. Sad. I was so angry about all this, but I think it's going to be more of the ancient swords and armor kind of thing.
Well, it says it goes back to like 542.
Yeah,
I mean, so think about how many things they've made here, and that from that. Wow.
Yep.
That's a
long history of bladed
crazy
weapons.
history.
Yep. Yeah, it kind of got revived. You see, in 1986, like it wasn't a very big city. It's still not actually 83,000 people. So it kind of got revived as a tourist destination.
And El Greco was born in Toledo.
Oh yes, very, very amazing. The Spanish artists Velázquez, Goya, and El Greco, who's Greek, but some of them were kind of the cusps of what how art changed through the periods. Not by any means an art critic, but of your academic period, your impressionist periods, and everything like that. But argue that some of Goya was like early impressionist.
And
Some of
that's it. Those are all in the Prado.
Yeah, Yeah, that's going to be profit.
Just so,
Yeah.
like, oh
There's
shit.
you can see them. You can go look at them, and
Can
so
I throw
that's
soup on them
don't
and
do that.
yell about the climate?
They're not fans of that. But no, yeah, the whole people were teasing me. Sometimes tourists get hassled here and there, but I think if you were to get hassled by a tourist or by as a tourist in Spain, it would probably be in Barcelona. That's we've actually seen that, but maybe
Yeah,
Madrid a little. But
Madrid and like from an outsider looking in, Madrid and Barcelona are almost equal popularity, and I would
yeah,
expect them to then be like the New York City of Spain, where it's,
definitely, yeah,
a lot of tourists and all the
yeah,
people there know that.
yep. But and so Barcelona has some famous stuff. It's funny reading through Rick Steves, their famous street. I forgot the name of it. You just look at it for 5 minutes and you're done. That's all you need to do. The thing to do there is the
Well, I have VR, so I do it on VR sometimes, and I go, that
you
counts.
just do that actually. Actually, Kim and I are probably on some YouTube video. There was one of these guys hiding as a camouflage as a tree and did a jump scare for a YouTube channel or some bullcrap. And Kim freaked out, and I was like, I immediately went for my wallet. Like I'm like, okay, where's the pickpocket? But and we saw a little video camera, and like, oh gosh, so we're probably on some dumb YouTube video, some Facebook reel or some TikTok video. And that was Barcelona, but Barcelona has the Familia Sagrado. It's famous because it's been under construction for 200 and some years, so not finished, but it's close to finished now. It's beautiful. It's worth a trip. But if I were to recommend Spain, I would say if you want to do two cities in a week, Seville and Madrid.
Seville and Madrid. All right, so Barcelona's out, even though
Where we
I
got
think
married.
that's where you got married. That's what AI really appreciated.
Well, I mean
Barcelona.
that's where all the cruises go out of. So you're bound to go there for your Mediterranean cruises. But um, yeah, pretty fun vacation. Some cool military history museums. Just chock full of
Yeah,
history in general.
and they're not even that crowded. This was the population. Madrid, like 3 million, 3.2 mil, looks like,
Yeah,
and then Barcelona, Valencia, Seville is like 700,000.
yeah.
That's
Seville is
crazy.
definitely more approachable and walkable. Easygoing, less. You feel safer there, probably a little bit. I felt. Um, yeah. Oh
Ch-
goodness, that was a whirlwind of the history of Spain in a nutshell, and
That was no, that's beautiful. That was it sounds like a beautiful trip because when I looked at the photos and even the food, I like tapas, but all the
we
architecture besides the pointed hats people, all the architecture was amazing. Even the 1929 built
yeah,
plaza.
yep. But it houses that cool museum, so yeah, we did a cooking class, made our own paella. Just so many fun things to do. Pretty affordable too. The plane
Yeah.
tickets, we use points. The plane ticket prices to from the middle of America to the East Coast and West Coast aren't that much cheaper than just hopping over to Spain anyway. Like a few hundred less maybe. So
It's
your
crazy.
our hotel points, your Airbnbs aren't that expensive really, and everything's cheaper. The food, your wine, if you so want that.
Yeah, Spain was surprisingly cheap.
Yeah, yeah. So you're gonna probably like Kim and I could easily spend a lot more money going to uh, uh Hilton Head or something, Like there's
Yeah, right.
really no history there. Our trips to Miami are more
Wait,
expensive.
was Spain Sri Lanka cheap?
They're
Not
not
quite.
that cheap.
Sri Lanka
Um,
was cheaper, but Spain was quite cheap.
well, and the thing about Spain is that it has all this interesting stuff in history and all this big, huge things, really big, amazing, good food. Whereas, yeah, like India, you're you don't necessarily get that. A lot of the best Indian foods are actually in London, so
Yeah, they
uh,
do like to steal them.
yeah, they steal them and
Yeah,
appropriated them
I heard that.
all. Some of it was even invented in London, not even in India. So Spain's not like that. So it's affordable, but uh, bang for your buck. Yeah, it's worth it.
Not knowing
Yeah,
Spanish is not a factor as well, right?
yeah, just Spanglish. You just kind of put a lisp on the end of it. In some parts in Catalonia, apparently you don't do that. So we were being all ridiculous saying gracias. Like, what do you, it's gracias. I'm like, oh, that's how we say it here in Kansas. So, but yeah, Spanglish, fine. Easy peasy. A good place for Americans to tour around.
All right, it's definitely on my list. Sri Lanka wasn't on my list, but it's you've I'll pencil you in that. I'll pencil it in down there now.
But now it is, yeah.
I didn't know much about it, but I'll cross Barcelona off. I'll put that lower on it,
Yeah, lower. Yeah.
a little lower. All right, Nick, my man Nick, you've had an explosive summer, and you went on a trip that I talked about as a kid. I was gonna go on one day.
It was a long couple weeks we were there over there.
Weeks.
Decided we decided as a family to take a trip to Europe. We started off in London, and we did a lot of the big stuff in London. So we went and saw the crown jewels at the Tower of London. Did all that. That was a cool experience seeing all those.
Yeah.
Did all the other fun stuff there is to do in Paris. The big thing, kind of going on Milsurp related, I actually got this idea from Jake. He recommended it. Is the
Oh yeah.
Imperial War Museum. It is a
Cool.
fantastic museum. If you ever get the chance to go to it over there, it's actually free. And to say something to this caliber is free is pretty incredible. The World War One section is absolutely incredible. The amount of infields, number one Mark IIIs with the cutoff switch was just insane. More than I've ever seen in my life. I think there was probably like 15 to 20 of them, and all were in immaculate condition. They had
And how is it like? How is it presented all throughout the museum, or is there just like a gun room?
all throughout the museum. So they did it by war. So of course you had World War One, World War Two sections, like post World War Two, in the different areas that the British military would have saw service. So you had the Congo stuff. You had a lot of the
Oh, cool.
uh, Indian stuff. Yeah, there was a ton of stuff. But yeah, that the World War One was probably my favorite section of that museum. We also did the Churchill War Rooms, which are really cool. And I had watched the movie The Dark. I think it's The Darkest Hour. I believe is the one on Churchill. Yep. Watched that on the train ride to our next location after visiting, and I had watched it on my iPad, but I was looking at the photos I had taken. It is incredible how close the movie is to. They had nailed the scene, building the sets and everything are incredible. It's another one if you get the chance to go.
So what is
go.
it? It's his actual room brought there or something?
So they're actual bunkers. So the bunkers were under the government buildings, and it was where during the Battle of Britain and during a lot of other events, Churchill and his staff would have go down to during bombings, other situations. And cool part about it, you literally step back in time. They had closed the doors after the war, thinking, okay, we'll be here maybe a couple weeks, couple months. Weren't back there for 40 years until it was turned into a museum. His bed's still there. A lot of the other stuff still there. All the thumbtacks that were on the map were so you could still see all the little thumbtack holes on the map walls in the map room.
Wow.
But it's an incredible museum. Got to see the change in the guard at Buckingham Palace. That was really cool. That's a lot of really what we did there. The food's also super good in London. If
Wait,
you like
the London food is good?
Yeah. Oh yeah, fish and chips. I love fish and chips.
Oh, that's good.
Um,
That's
That
the
was
one
the
thing I
only
got.
good thing. Yeah, that's the only good thing I had there, but I haven't gone in a long time, decades.
you got to go to a true pub and get the steak pie, which is kind of like our chicken pot pie, but it's got steak and a brown gravy sauce. Phenomenal.
Kind of like shepherd's pie, but not ground meat.
Exactly. If you take shepherd's pie and mix it with like chicken pot pie, kind of that same situation. But it's
Beef pies
that's
is
what that
London.
is. Oh yeah, those are
Sounds
some
good.
of the best food. Of course, you're in London, you gotta go get the true pubs, go get a true beer. So we did that. My dad and I did. And then after that, couple days, well, 4 days, we took the train through the channel over to Paris, and spent about another week in Paris.
Wow, the channel.
And
That's cool.
it was super cool. And the thing is that on the train ride, they never told you were entering the channel. All of a sudden, you're going through the English countryside, and then you go into a dark tunnel for like 45 minutes, and then you come out. It's like, oh, that must have been the channel. So it was kind of those things that didn't really say much, but it's nice. I think it was a 2 hour train ride, which isn't bad. Nice relaxing train ride. But yeah, once we got to Paris, did a lot of cool stuff there.
And you could put cars on that too, right?
Oh,
On that
absolutely.
train?
No, I don't know.
Or they have car
I think
trains, maybe.
They have
I
car.
think so.
Yeah. I'm not sure. The one that we did was more of like a bullet train, so it was mainly just a passenger train. But I think they have stuff like that. But Paris was is a super cool city. There's a ton of stuff to do there. Of course, we were there about a month before the Olympics, so a lot of stuff was shut down. Some of the main roads were, so they were starting to get set up for the Olympics. Of course, got to do the main tourist stuff. So did the Eiffel Tower, did the Louvre. Did a lot of other stuff.
It's kind of strange how all that old shit is jammed in between all that new stuff and buses and and modern cars. It's weird.
Yep. The big museum on the Milsurp side, I would recommend is the Musée de la Mar, or I butchered that. The Musée de l'Armée, which is like the French Army Museum. It's also where Napoleon's tomb is at, and that's a super cool. And there is so much.
I think I saw Ian there once.
So many weapons there. Some of the craziest things you ever seen. Like I had counted, there were 4 STG-44s in that museum.
Oh,
So it's like, okay, these are $120,000 rifles at least. What are these worth than sitting here? And they're probably still functional. And some of the other odd,
hope they were
crazy
labeled
things.
correctly at least.
They were. I nitpicked on that. I was nitpicky on that. So
And you're French though, because they're going to be sticklers. So a lot of it's French labels.
exactly. Yep.
But the Meunier semi-autos.
Yep.
The Labels. The sniper rifles over there.
Some RSCs there.
Any RSCs?
Yep, there was, I think, 2 I saw. But we can get to the one later on. But
that's awesome.
That was super cool. There's some stuff I'm actually looking at making my own copies of after seeing firsthand, doing some measuring with my hands. I've been wanting to build it after a while. So they had an original well rod there, which you don't see many of those.
That's cool.
So I'd taken pictures of the side and from above because it's a very simple design if you ever see one. And I've been looking at making like a kind of a copy, of course, a non-firing copy. But a well rod, something like that. So that's the Mark 1. The Mark 2 wouldn't have the trigger guard. So that's what I would make. Yeah, that one there is what I would make. But it's a super easy design.
Wow, looks like a prisoner made it.
Yeah, it's incredible.
And your frame.
Yeah, and your magazine is there in the plastic overmolded grip is your magazine. So it's kind of gives you some ideas. They also had every model of the Sten machine gun ever developed. So they had the Mark 1, Mark 2, Mark 3, and Mark 5. My dad and I both have my dad has a Mark 2 and I have a Mark 5. We could do a Mark 3, we were just not a fan of those. But the Mark 1 is always one that I've always liked. So we've been designing some plans around one of those. Got to see a lot of Napoleon's uniforms that they had in that museum. But
his real uniforms?
Yep, his real uniforms, his overcoat, his I don't even remember what the real name.
All right, you could be one that solves it as well. Is he really that small?
Oh, absolutely. I can send you a photo.
Shit. Usually they say he's not.
Okay. It's hard for us, but he was 5'7", 5'8", I think. So for the time, he was normal size, but his build stature was very small. He was a very skinny, taller guy for the time. Not
So
tall.
he was a slender build.
Very slender build. But most people were at the time.
He
I think
was,
everybody just
yeah. The thing about him was that he was pretty average height. You know, me 5'11", I'm pretty average height in America, so much, but people were shorter back then. But he was around a lot of his generals were pretty tall, so the paintings of him were going to be him around taller people, just because that was who his staff was. I was told that was one reason he kind of looked a little small. He did not have a small ego. He made up for it.
absolutely.
That bar none.
But
Well, I know all the facts. I saw Joaquin Phoenix, so I know 100% of the facts.
I didn't get anything wrong on that.
There's
Yeah.
nothing wrong.
They had
He
a
had a
ton of quite a bit of
complex.
U.S. stuff in the museum. I was kind of shocked to see how much actual U.S. military.
What range? Like how old?
Oldest I remember seeing, they had a trapdoor for some reason.
Oh,
I was kind of odd to see that. I was like, okay, that's odd. I think it maybe was a place filler for some reason, because it was in a random case. But they also had something cool. I do military reenacting, for listeners that don't know. And they had a cool display cabinets where it was everything your main infantryman would have carried on them. So all the way from the rifle down to your socks and boots, uniform, everything. But yeah, it was super cool. So I took a lot of those photos for newer guys that are looking at joining the groups I'm in.
and for what soldier though? What for a French?
They
Just a French soldier?
These were actually U.S. This was U.S.,
Oh.
which is kind of crazy.
Shit,
They had done the U.S. display. Everything went your field gear.
it's crazy.
And then they have a lot of paratrooper stuff from the U.S. side. So they had an original Rupert. So if anybody doesn't know what the Rupert is, Rupert was it was literally nothing but a filled canvas little doll type thing that they had dropped into Normandy prior to the paratroopers coming in, trying to scare off or get the Germans' attention to that certain areas. So to find original Ruperts are almost impossible. So they had one there at that museum, which was kind of cool. So that's the rubber one. The canvas one is what I've been seeing. I saw more of on this trip.
Wow.
But all sorts of other cool stuff. Original parachutes, harness sets. But that was a super cool museum. And then of course French food's always super good. Of course escargot, all the good French stuff. Probably the worst. That was probably the worst place I had my worst meal of the trip was. We went to a nice French restaurant and I ordered their beef stew. Not what I would call beef stew. It was literally just chunks of beef with fat on it in a chicken broth with potatoes and carrots. Not what I would.
Got like the peasant dish.
It pretty much was the peasant dish. It's like not what I would call beef stew, but it was good. But
that's French food, though. I mean, when you
it is. There's you get hit and miss.
potatoes. You can definitely have your worst meal of your life in Paris, but you could also have your best meal in your life in Paris.
Yeah.
You have to be a little careful. Yep.
But no, it was kind of leading into the next area we went. So we went and did the Arc de Triomphe one day. And it was kind of cool. The day we were there, they were doing a special ceremony. So I was there in June. And if anybody doesn't know what happened in June this year, it was the 80th anniversary of D-Day. And they were doing a special ceremony at their Tomb of the Unknown Soldier, which is actually under the Arc de Triomphe, for all the Commonwealth and French soldiers that were killed in World War II. And they were lighting an eternal flame that was going to travel to Normandy for these anniversaries. So that was kind of cool to see. A lot of high-end dignitaries were there that day.
Wow.
We were there. Yeah, it was a super cool event to see.
Like when you think about it, it's an eternal flame. So
yeah, absolutely. It's
in
incredible.
theory, 300 years from now, they're gonna go, yo, they did this once back in, June.
Yep.
You were there. Pretty cool.
Yeah. Yep, that kind of leads into the next portion of the trip. After our time in Paris, we rented a car and drove up to Normandy, France, and
Oh shit.
was in Normandy, France for the anniversary. We were on Utah Beach to the minute of the invasion, of the 80 years of the invasion. So that was
That's
kind of
pretty
cool.
cool.
Yeah, so it was kind of cool to say I was on the beach at the exact time our guys would have landed, which was really cool.
And
Uh,
what did they do something at the time? Did they have like a flyover or
there were flyovers all weekend long.
Wow.
We stayed. Our Airbnb was actually on the other side of the peninsula. It was just so expensive to get one on the north side of the peninsula. We were on the southwest side, but we could see U.S. AC-130s, Galaxies, all sorts of other military aircraft flying around that were doing drops. Cool part, the U.S. C-7, I think the Galaxies were had painted on the invasion stripes on the aircraft, which is what they would have done during the invasion. So that was kind of cool to see. But we spent 4 days there. We did pretty much everything you could think of. We did Saint-Mère-Église, Saint-Marie-du-Mont, Cannes, Carentan, everything. Got to meet a lot of original gentlemen that were actually served there.
I was gonna say, were there veterans from other from any besides Americans, any other veterans around?
So there was
They have to be in their
French.
90s.
There was a
around.
French one I met. There was a Norwegian. There was Swedish, but they didn't do a whole lot during the war. Sweden didn't. And a couple German. I was kind of shocked to see them there,
Whoa.
but that was kind of cool. But no, it was a super cool event. I tell anybody, if you're gonna go, do not go during an anniversary.
All right, so wait, so what beach were you on again? Say it again.
I hit goal. I hit Utah and Omaha. I didn't do gold, sort of Juneau.
Right, so that's good. You hit the
Mainly
US,
because
both US.
yeah, I mainly do U.S. reenacting, so it was kind of one of those things I had to hit Utah and Omaha. Also did Point the Hook, did that, which is a super cool area if you ever get the chance.
Yeah, that's
those
cool
craters are incredibly deep, and it's something what you just get the feeling. Imagine Second Rangers climbing that.
Wow.
It's just I couldn't imagine climbing those cliffs. But it was just to get down on the beaches.
That's crazy.
I did not get to go to Pegasus Bridge. If everybody's thinking, it was on one of our routes, but that whole area hasn't changed. It hasn't really built up infrastructure wise, so everything's a little 2-lane road, super narrow roads. So traffic was incredibly bad. So it just was hard to get around. That's why I say don't go during an anniversary week, or that whole month. If you can go in April, May, or July or after, I would highly, highly recommend the trip. A lot of the bunkers
I think that goes for a lot of things, though. If you want to avoid the crowds in some of these old places, avoid the anniversaries and
absolutely, yeah. Like a lot of the bunkers I wanted to see, I couldn't get to because they were down the road that was closed for that week.
No. What about the batteries? I know that there's a couple.
Did get to go to some of the batteries, like the big one up off of Point to Hook. I got to see that one.
Cool.
There was a couple other small ones we got to see, but the big thing I wanted to see was some of the areas where the units I reenact served, because I actually had met a couple of guys that back in later years, they've now since passed, that were actually had served at those spots, and I'd heard their stories. So it was kind of one of those solemn moments to go and see those different areas. One of them was a gentleman from one of the groups I reenact is the 325th Glider Infantry of the 82nd Airborne, and they fought at Lafayette Causeway, and one of their members actually received the Medal of Honor for his actions there. That was a super cool place to go. I got to see where a couple units I also reenact where they landed their landing spots during Normandy. There's so much cool stuff.
Are you allowed to take sand?
They say not to. They say a lot of people you'll get caught at the airport. We didn't get caught, so we brought quite a bit. Yeah, no, we brought quite a bit back for friends and family.
that won't ever get the chance to go probably. But no, it's super cool. Saint-Mère-Église is a super cool place. Those are just towns that literally looks like you stepped right back into the 40s, especially during the anniversary week. The amount of reenactors that are there are incredible. I think I had heard estimates of 3,000 to 4,000 reenactors in that region that week. Just
Wow.
incredible amounts.
Jeez.
The museums there are incredible. The big one I recommend is Dead Man's Corner Museum, or in the World War II Experience. Some of the most incredible things you'll ever see. They have the helmet of the real life Colonel Vandervoot, which is who John Wayne portrayed in the movie The Longest Day.
Well,
So that's super cool to see.
like shit like that.
They have the original handcart that he was on, just all sorts of uniforms. A lot of the original uniforms from members of Easy Company. They have Forrest Scoot's original jump uniform. They have Dick Winter's one of his flight jackets. Just incredible amounts of, if you like gear, weapons, just everything military from World War II, especially the U.S. side and the German side. It's incredible. It's
And how far away is this from everything else?
From Paris, it's about 4 hours by car. But you're as long as it's normal traffic, you're probably 30 minutes from the beaches at most. Yeah, this is right up on the roads. Super incredible. I highly recommend the World War II Experience and Dead Man's Corner Museum. It's one of the best little museums I've ever been to. There's also the Airborne Museum, which is in Saint-Mère-Église. That's another good museum. It was a little, I'd say, less as well. Best way to put it, it wasn't as good as the World War II Experience. A little older museum, so things are kind of a little outdated in a way. They're trying to keep up with it, modernizing it, but of course not as good. There was one big fault that I caught at the World War II Experience. They have it's like a building from one of the French villages that the U.S. had occupied, just all sorts of gear, vehicles, tanks, all sorts of other stuff. But there happened to be one paratrooper sitting there, and he had a PU Mosin in his hand. I'm like, I don't think that would be here. So I've since, once I got back home, I had sent the museum an email telling him, hey, that would never have been on the Western Front during this time. Only time a U.S. soldier would have seen a Mosin would have been in Berlin or southern Germany, middle of 1945. There's no way we would have.
Rare Soviet paratroopers.
That's true. Yeah,
They got lost.
It's one of those.
Did they respond?
I never got anything back, but that doesn't mean that things might have changed. I guarantee they got so many emails, but it was super fun. I will say the food up in that region is kind of sporadic. You're not going to get a wide variety of food up there. They love their bread, of course. You'll get used to eating bread.
Breads and cheeses.
If you ever get the chance, you got to try foie gras. It's
Whoa,
I was not.
that's fancy.
I didn't know what it was at first, but it's actually not
That's
bad.
duck stuff, isn't it?
Duck liver. It's exactly what it is.
Goose liver.
Yeah, duck or goose liver, depending on what the place that serves it is. But it was actually pretty good. Of course, had to try some of the other French dishes.
Did you try the poulet à la Normandy? Remember, there's the famous Normandy chicken.
I did not.
They have a Normandy chicken that's named after them. It's chicken with apples and cream.
Interesting. I could see that because I did see a ton of apple trees up in that region. So I was kind of, it doesn't shock me.
Did you try their like ciders or Calvados? Their apple
Yes.
liqueur.
Ooh.
Pretty good.
Yep.
Oh yeah, they're known for their apple orchards. I did see that. Yeah,
Their apple brandies.
yeah, hard ciders as well.
Papados,
yeah. A lot of those small towns loves their kebab shops. Don't know why.
Oh yes,
There's
gotta
so
love the
many
kebab shops.
kebab shops. It's like every block has its own kebab shop. It's just incredible. But another thing that was kind of cool about this trip, being there on the anniversary, is the amount of military vehicles you would see. So we're just driving down a country road, and next thing you know, you see a military vehicle convoy of at least 40 or 50 Jeeps, and it goes on what feels like forever. I have some really cool videos of that. The amount of Jeeps you see, the amount of tanks.
They all traveled across all of France.
When we were driving out there, there was a vehicle from the Netherlands that we had passed that was hauling a Jeep that was heading up to Normandy. The amount of...
So how many days was like the celebration?
I think I had
in Normandy?
heard...
Was it just the one?
No, I had heard there were guys there for 2 weeks.
Wow.
Because, of course, a lot of stuff happened. You have D-Day plus however many days. They didn't take Carentan till, I believe, D-Day plus 12. So imagine that's still going on. So at least 2 weeks, most of the guys were there. So that was also super cool. There are a lot of the main memorials I wanted to see. Couldn't go to because, of course, they were set up for the big ceremonies that, of course, all the president and all them went to. Couldn't go to the main cemetery because it was closed down for 2 days. That was just kind of a disappointing. Even though I don't know anybody that was killed. I didn't know of anybody in our family or family or friends that had anybody that was killed during D-Day, so I couldn't visit the cemeteries. But no,
Yeah, they also have the German cemetery there too.
Yep, we did pass that. We did not go because it's kind of actually one of those things. It's blocked by huge rows of trees, and you really don't notice we didn't notice it until we saw just a large amount of vehicles parked there, and then I ended up looking like, oh, there's the German cemetery. But
Yeah,
it was
interesting.
and I will go back definitely. It's definitely on my trip to go back, and there's just so much more that I did not get to see that I want to go back and see.
Yeah, a Battlefield tour is definitely on the bucket list for sure.
Yeah, and I looked at doing it, but it was just being the 80th anniversary. It was so hard to get a true Battlefield tour. So it was one of those things. If I do go back, I'll probably do a Battlefield tour. But just so much other cool stuff to see. Probably
the Band of Brothers tours.
Yeah, that's one I would look at doing. I think a couple of the actors from the movie are part of that one. Either that or I think they have their own tours. I think it's the We 506 tours. I don't remember.
And then there's these other ones that you can do 8-day with
Yeah,
the
and
Loire Valley.
There's just so much to do up there. But one thing we wanted to do at the end of the trip, we wanted to go to Mont Saint Michel, the castle out on the island.
Oh, cool.
Just a super cool place. We didn't go up into it because it was busy the day we went out there. It was actually the day we were going to be driving back to Paris. But if anybody knows the scenes from the original Harry Potter of Diagon Alley, that was based off of the cobblestone streets on Mont Saint Michel.
Yeah.
So it's a super cool place. If you ever get the chance, it's a gorgeous. It's actually was an old monastery, but it's a very gorgeous area. It actually has areas that get flooded.
The Chateau Saint Michel.
Yep.
Chateau Saint Michel.
Yep. But no, France is a very interesting country because you get into parts where I would have swore I was in central Kansas. Just cornfields, wheat fields. It's very interesting. It's like we're just driving back. You're driving through a small little town. The only way you're in Europe is just looking at the markings on the road. Other than that, it looks like the central United States. So, but it was a very, yeah, don't tell that. But no, it was a very fun trip. That's for sure.
That sounds like a real triumph, a triumphant trip, Nick. Wow.
Yeah, it was incredible. I was probably one of my bucket list trips I've ever taken, top trips ever. So,
yeah, you did it. You conquered that trip. Amazing.
All right. So I think that wraps up our summer reports for where we were over the summer. I was down in the hot Florida, Bahama area. We had some Sri Lanka. We had all over Spain. We had all over France. And in a second, we're going to talk about one more, the Kansas City, Missouri trip, which for a couple of you guys, it wasn't that much of a trip. Although Jake had a pretty couple hours away there.
I did have to drive. The Paris of the Plains, Kansas City. The sister city to Seville? I
Oh,
forgot the
that's
name.
right. That is right.
Cities.
They
You
look,
get
they
out
look,
of the train station in Seville and you're like, Kansas City Avenue. Like, what?
they look just the same, right?
The
Yeah.
plaza, the Kansas City has its plaza, right? There's a small, tiny version of the tower of, gosh, the famous tower that's in Seville. The one in Seville is way more impressive, I'll say. Sorry, Kansas City, but it is modeled after it. It's like an exact replica. So check that out the next time you're in KC.
So it's really the sister city. That's weird.
Yeah, they're pretty tight sisters too. It's more than just a little bit since they modeled so much after Seville.
All right. So to end the summer here, I wanted to just share some of our summer pickups if you would want to share any. And I actually picked up 4 things over the summer, 2 from the Mustache Man and 2 from our pal Matt out in Texas. I picked up 2 Enfields, a Lithgow #4, and finally got my #5 Jungle Carbine, tiny little fun, cool looking gun that my kids instantly loved. Like that looks so cool. And then the Mustache Man, I picked up a Type 30 Arasaka.
Ooh, nice. Oh, that's right. You got that one. That was a decent looking one.
Yeah, that was pretty cool. 1910 Kushikawa. The mum is not only been removed, it's not just slightly defaced with the line and not just removed. It's been, as Dennis even described it, roughly defaced, which kind of sucks. Whoever did it was angry for sure. And then I picked up a finned up 91 Mosin Nagant from 1899 Sestrorexiesk. Can never say that one as well. So that was my 4, which was a pretty big, busy summer because I believe I only picked up 1 or 2 small things before the summer. So that was busy for me. 2 Enfields, an Arasaka, and a Mosin. What about you guys? Anyone got anything good? Get anything good, I should say.
I got
Uh,
something most people don't see very often.
Ooh.
It is a Type 38 cavalry short rifle, Arasaka.
Ooh, that's a unique one.
And I didn't know
Wow.
what it was at first. I thought it was just a standard Type 99 when I was at the auction. But just when I got there, I was kind of looking it over. I was like, this is a different, interesting Arasaka. It's got the long rear sight, and the barrel's a little short. I'm like, that's kind of odd. So I did a quick research while I was standing there, and I come to find out it was one of the Type 38 cavalry short rifles. Very limited production runs on those. There's no real known production numbers because it was kind of where they would build them in batches just when they ever needed them. That was one big pickup. Also got
I have to remember to keep not thinking that that's Bubba instantly,
Yeah, and that's
when
what
I
got
see
me
it
worried.
cut.
I'm like, okay, what Bubba did this? If he did it, he did a heck of a good job. But got that. Got a Winchester 1917 actually at the Missouri Valley show. I had sold a couple rifles there at the show, so I had some extra money in the pocket, and it was a super good price on a Winchester 1917 there on that Friday. Picked that bad boy up. Real nice condition, super nice stock, really nice bore. We shot it at that weekend with some of the guys. I know Kelly, you were hitting how far? 250, 300 yards with it.
I think that furthest target was 400, wasn't it?
Yeah, if it was, I know you were
I think
ringing
it was.
But that was a big pickup, and
That's fun to shoot.
Yeah, it was a fun one. I've shot that recently here, and it shoots real good still. There was one other big one I bought. Oh, I also bought a Argentine 1909, which is actually from a fellow YouTuber that all of us know from has always been big into military surplus, known as Eric from Iraq Veteran 8888. he was selling off some of his collection and picked
Cool.
up his Argentine 1909 long rifle. So the cool part about it, it actually has its own video that he filmed on the rifle. So I think that's pretty cool. The rifle I now own is in one of his videos. So
Nice.
that's a super cool pickup.
And you just recently got another Argentine though, right? So you're filling out your Argentine Mausers.
That was the most recent one. I have every Argentine besides the 1891 Engineer's carbine and then the Mountain carbines.
I know we were trying one out at the shoot, but I guess you didn't pick that one
Yeah,
up.
I passed on that one. I looked at it again. It was kind of I'd had some other stuff come up and I had a couple other purchases, so it was one of those things I had to pass on. Oh, most recent one, completely forgot about, is another M1 Garand. But the cool
What?
part about this, yeah, another M1 Garand. Be shocked, of course.
I didn't know. Wow.
But the cool part about this one, it was actually it's a CMP gun, but has a brand new Criterion barrel. But after doing some research, this one was lend-leased to Italy after the war, so it's got a lot of Beretta parts in it. So the trigger
Cool.
assembly's Beretta. I think the stock's a Beretta stock. A lot of the other internal parts are Beretta, but it's a mix of Springfield and Beretta parts, which is kind of cool. And that was at a local shop. Still has its original greenish gray finish, which is really cool. But yeah, picked that up at a local shop. So that was another cool pickup.
That's cool.
Very nice.
All right. Jake, you got something? You got a few things, didn't you?
No, not really. It's been a pretty boring summer for me. I don't really buy guns, right?
Yeah.
Oh
Buy too
gosh.
much.
Oh man.
It was wheeling and dealing.
Oh, just buying too many things, too many cool things out there. What constitutes as the summer? There was a purchase, I think it may have been technically spring, 1895 Lee Navy, Winchester Lee Navy. I bought one of those.
Forgot about that. Yeah,
Yeah, those
I
were
know.
always tight.
that's cool.
Forgot too. That's sitting in this room. Well, at that gun show, the Missouri Valley Arms Collectors one. But first of all, I want to thank Nick, who is on the leadership committee for that, right, Nick?
I am one of the officers, of course.
Yeah.
Yes.
So he made all this happen and all of this fun time, and thanks, big shout out to Danny, Milsurp World. Danny had a guy give him a line on an LPO8 artillery Luger, 1917 DWM, which is I was kind of looking for one, and it was from a guy he knows, and I've actually seen before too. Cooler older guy with a holster, matching stock, and 3 magazines. None of those matched, of course, but the holster that it came in is actually 1915 dated, and I have a picture of it here. I'm looking at myself. B. Wiedermond, or I don't know my holster makers. Holster made 1915. Guns a 1917 DWM, all matching with its matching stock. So cool. But we know that this stock and that pistol were in that holster when something happened to it that sprayed a bunch of what had to be high velocity small metal fragments, i.e., some people call shrapnel, right? There's some damage to this Luger on the receiver, and I took pictures of that in a way that it's not just simply by dropping or low velocity. I mean, the metal is kind of smeared. So, like a high velocity small metal bits kind of showered this pistol. And there's holes in the holster that line up perfectly with all of those marks on the pistol itself. So it was kind of hit from the top of the pistol.
Whoa.
And the holes on the holster line up with all of those major hits, and then some on the wood from the stock, which of course it's matching to the gun, so they were all together. And kind of proved, I mean, what kind of provenance can you have that, a holster was carried
Yeah, right.
that pistol was carried in that holster, other than it being damaged a little bit, which was kind of a. I mean, it's totally functional. I haven't shot it yet, but it doesn't affect the function in any way. You can kind of see the bits that
And,
were kind of hurt, but
and kudos to these folks that putting the year on it. For the love of God,
I know.
you just
Because,
see a lot of makers, but when they put the year, it's a pleasant surprise.
and like people like me who are kind of pedantic, you're like, oh, it's a 1917 artillery Luger. I need a holster. If I didn't have one, I need a 1917 holster to go with it, right? To pair nicely. No, this one was 1915, and it was together. That's how they were.
Right. You could hear a story where they had boxes of them or crates of them that went out, maybe, and all of those had 1915 and whatever.
Yeah, that's
Who
just
knows
how
how
it
it
was,
got it?
right? And who knows exactly what happened? It's not like there was a shortage of shrapnel showering stuff in at the Germans,
Yeah.
so it's highly conceivable that indeed was shrapnel damage. But that got that at the show. It was a very fair price, I would say, compared to some. And I need to thank Danny for that. He gets first dibs if he ever so chooses. Rights of ownership, right of first refusal, whatever. So I got that at that show. That was quite fun. Pretty cool, interesting piece of history, which I just love. Everything else, I mean, yeah, I've got a few other things, there's some bayonets and various bits. I mentioned those two little Spanish pistols I got from Empire Arms.
Right.
I got, well, one thing I got was 1842 Springfield smoothbore musket. Didn't tell a lot of people about that, but I got
Whoa.
that.
Yeah, that's going back.
Yeah, it was a fun one. Got that Peabody Martini I mentioned was actually from a friend of mine close by here. And with it, actually, additionally, he sold a model 1908 Webley self-loading pistol in 32 auto, not the Mark One bigger version, but the small one. And it's cool. It's now in the ownership of my wife's collection. So she likes cool things from London. And this one is a police pistol marked City of London Police, number 20. I need to find a picture of it, but they only made 60 in that order of them for the City of London Police. This one is number 29. And it says City of London Police on this side. Small little 32 Webley. City of London is actually, I didn't know this actually, Nick, that you were in London, but the City of London is the very center of London. It's kind of like the Manhattan of New York, say you're in New York, but you could also say Manhattan. But the City of London is actually
there's
like
gate,
old,
like old. You could see the old cobblestone gate pillars when you're actually
yes.
leaving that area. It's super cool.
So that's like the old original like Roman London of
Yep.
London, whatever you say. So that's
Londonia,
the
it was
old
like
London.
London, or yeah, it was a weird way they
Something
pronounced
like
it.
that. So City of London police pistol, I thought was just super cool.
And why would wait? You said there were how many made?
60 in that order, supposedly is what I'm told.
Jeez.
So we got number
Talk about rare.
29. Yeah, there you go. I mean, they're not supremely expensive necessarily, but
I love a nice small serial number, even when it's on a rifle that it doesn't matter, like an M95. If you end up getting like a 41, it's
right?
still pretty cool,
I think I agree.
even though it resets on some of those.
Yeah, well, I think it did count in summer. I did make a pretty big purchase of a rifle called the Fusil Automatique Model 1917, which is what it
Ooh.
was labeled as on the auction versus my searches that are perpetually out there, commonly known as the RSC rifle.
So there was
And
no RSC written anywhere in the
nope,
posting. Interesting.
some of you guys got to shoot that, right?
Indeed.
We indeed did get to shoot this wonderful and not light rifle.
For sure, yeah.
It's pretty heavy.
Yeah.
And
So,
no one called it the Fusil Automatique Model 1917.
yep.
It's pretty smooth though.
Yeah. I still need to tweak its gas system. How many World War II guns that aren't Garand's are semi-auto or SVT-40s? Well, World War One, there's this really just this, but you don't have a lot of the old semi-autos that you have to really worry about the gas systems and stuff. So I'm kind of harkening back to my AR-15 building expertise of gas port sizes and gas tuning and stuff because this gun is well over 100 years old. And
Yeah, it's crazy. It's like 20 years before the M1.
yeah.
That's
There's
crazy.
design elements that made it to the Garand from this that I think they said that John Garand got some cues because basically there's only so many ways to make a trigger and some stuff. But I think too, Garand, what was it? He got a lot of design inspirations from
Yeah,
the
the gas port located underneath
yeah, right.
barrel near the muzzle.
But yeah, so that's a pretty fun bit of history, and it's a really beautiful gun. We all got to shoot it. It was not fully cycling. I'm working on it. It's in my basement right now. I actually got something in the mail literally today that's going to help me actually, in theory, tweak the gas a little bit better. But it's going to be a fun
Yeah,
project. But that was a big one.
never ends. But yeah,
No,
that's a fun one. That's very unique. I can honestly say I've never been in the same room as one before, let alone shoot one.
there you go.
Oh shit! All right, Kelly, did you say what you picked up? Kelly,
Oh,
you.
oop, I was on mute the whole time. Damn
Oh
it.
shit!
I was saying the RSC is definitely a bucket list rifle for sure. And it was fairly
Yeah.
smooth too. Let's
Yep.
see. I did pick up a few this summer. If you count May as the summer, it was already stupid hot here, so I'll count it. I got
It's always
a
hot there.
one that was on my list, an 1886 Kropatschek for the Portuguese.
Nice.
That one's really cool because it's like the precursor to the Lebel, and it was semi-smokeless or like compressed black powder, and then it was smokeless powder. So I get to create some loads for it, which I haven't done yet.
Then it stole from the Mauser, and then the lapel stole from that. Yeah, it was fun.
Yeah, it's very. God, it's heavy, and it's like I think it's my longest rifle. I think it's longer than the Lebel. I'll have to check.
I think so.
And mine has a handguard still on it, so it's a colonial model, the 1886/89, which you don't find them too much with the handguard still present. A lot of them are like probably like 90% are missing the handguard.
Yeah, right. They clip on, right?
Yeah, they clip on, and that's it. There's nothing else that holds them on. That you can just pop them right off.
Yeah. So that's surprising.
And what else? I got another Spanish Model 92, one of the E-bar pistols that Spain made for France in World War One. That's chambered in 8mm French revolver. Got that from our friend Matt, and that's my second one. It was nicer than mine, so it's a nice, quick little upgrade. Then I lost out on something at an auction, but I got myself a little consolation prize that nobody else really bid on. It went pretty cheap. It's an Imperial German accepted Bajola pistol. So it's one of the zillions of 32s they used in World War One. This was made by Becker and Hollander. It was like a sporting rifle and shotgun manufacturer before the war, and they're like, "Hey, you make 32 pistols." So they
And
made up this little design. It's
they
pretty
were
neat.
used by the soldier. They were military used.
Yeah, it has an imperial acceptance mark, so it was accepted by the German military in World War One, and they
Ooh.
used them. Wow, that's a terrible picture. I'll have to fix that picture.
Yeah.
And I took it out shooting, and it shoots really nice. All 32s are nice to shoot. And it's one of the ones that uses the firing pin as the ejector, so it's kind of sketchy looking. What else? At the gun show we were all at, I managed to pick up just something that I kind of wanted since I don't have one. And it checks a box for me for a British World War II pistol. I got a Enfield No. 2 Mark I revolver. One of the little break actions that spit the shells everywhere in 38. It was a pretty good deal. And right at the end of the summer, I made the mistake of working a few gun shows with Matt, and that's always a mistake because deals kind of find their way to you then. And I ended up getting a P38 from him for a really good deal. It's all matching, all original shape, correct World War II mag, beautiful Bakelite grips and everything. And it's a BYF 1944.
Oh, cool. That's another one of my bucket list. I need to shoot guns. That's very nice. All right, so we were all kind of busy. I didn't feel like I was that busy buying, but I guess I was. Summer's not that long.
Yeah, it adds up quick.
It adds up. Yes. And we have one more trip of the summer here. Let's just bang out the KC show that we went to, the Missouri Valley Arms Collectors Association gun show in KC. It's held in the giant 70,000 square foot KCI Expo Center. It's right by the airport. It holds up to 4,000 people. It's huge. And this year they said there was going to be 750 tables. I didn't count, but look, that looked about right. I did a little math.
Yeah, it felt like it.
Yeah, we were right about 750 this year.
All right. The venue is a big standard, like airplane hangar, so it's a big rectangle with rows and rows and rows everywhere. And their pride is it's only guns, arms, and armor related items. No jellies, no tasers, no camping equipment, none of that bullshit. As far as Milsurp versus modern guns, this show, do you agree, was mostly Milsurp, right?
Yeah, I'd say like
Or not military surplus, but mostly old rifles,
yeah, definitely like
not modern.
90% old stuff, and then probably a good 40% Milsurp. A lot of old West stuff too.
Right. There was a lot of lever actions and old revolvers and shit like that. And that was pretty much the same as last year. And they also had a lot of displays. We'll talk about them in a little while. Our friends participated in the displays. You can win some awards. But the Friday deals thing we talked about last year, there was a lot of dealing going on this Friday as well, I thought. If you don't know, Fridays when the vendors come and set up, but they also immediately go and start wheeling and dealing. And like half the guys buy it and put it right on their table and mark it up, which is kind of sad. But
Yeah, that's usually how it goes.
and I did see multiple tables change their prices from Friday to Saturday. Did anyone else
No,
notice that?
Yeah, no, it happened with actually my 1917 because I sold my couple rifles on Friday during midday, and then right before the end of the day on Friday, he had already marked his rifle down $100. He's like, if you don't buy it today, it's going to be going up higher for tomorrow and the weekend. So I'm like, all right, let's do it.
He got you. So Friday's definitely the day. If you can get in on the deal of the day, because on Saturday and Sunday it was like I thought it was like 2 or 3 times more crowded, right? It was
Oh,
a
it
lot
is
of people there.
quite a few. There's a line out the door.
Yeah. So we should compare to last year. Did you guys notice the prices overall, if it was cheaper or more expensive than last year? Or
I'd say it
the
was
same?
equal or less. I don't think anything really climbed a whole lot.
Yeah, because I actually thought everything seemed cheaper. Besides a
Yeah,
few things like M1s and a few things that were some crazy prices. Overall, though, I felt like a lot of things were cheaper. I don't know.
yeah, there weren't any like screaming deals or any true screaming deals got snapped up before even I got there. But yeah, everything was it felt like 10-15% lower just in general. And it was definitely a different mix of stuff than last year. Last year was super Japanese heavy, it seemed like.
Yeah, I was gonna ask, what did you notice now that you didn't notice last year, or vice versa?
Yeah, let's see. Last year there was like seemed like tons of Type 14s and there were like Papa Nambus and some baby Nambus and Type 26s. This year it seemed like there's a bunch of Type 99s and a lot of 1917s I noticed.
Yeah.
Yeah, and Winchester 1895s, I noticed a lot of.
Hmm.
There was like 4. That's a lot for those. Most shows I go have 0. Couple of prices I wrote down were that the M1 Gerins averaged around 1,400 to 1,600. The Enfields, there were a lot of Enfields. They were hovering around 600 to 700, which is not bad for a show. I don't know. And then the 1917s, I wrote down I saw a few between 1,000 and 1,200, but they were all mixed up parts. But like the German stuff and the U.S. stuff kind of was up, but everything else I thought was fair or a little low. It's pretty good.
The whole last year kind of seems to be kind of a more of a steady state for the prices of things, and maybe even a little bit down because these things are not, essentials of daily living necessarily. So people might not be willing to pay so much overpriced. And those prices you were listing for things like Garen's, I'm like, yeah, that's so much more than I paid, but that was years ago. And I feel like if you peeled $100 or $200 off of those prices in general across the board is what it would take to move them probably, they'll sit on the tables for
Right.
those prices, and then but to really, if you really want it, maybe take them down another 100 or 200. Typical gun show dealing.
Maybe it's the New Yorker and me, but compared to my shows, these sellers were not really pushing sales at all. Where I'm from, it's like, hey, buddy, you like that? Well, how much? Can you make me an offer? What do you think? And they try to get you to do something, and then maybe you get nervous, you start throwing out numbers, and next thing you know, you're walking home with it. But a lot of these guys just sat there, they put up their price. It was like, boy, that's a crazy high price, and they're like, yep, that's it. They weren't looking for me to make an offer.
Well, and it's like a lot of these shows, and even the big ones like Tulsa, and then even the super tiny ones, is that sometimes those hidden deals, like this guy didn't have it on his table at all, but somehow Danny knew he was looking to sell that, and yeah, bought it from him, got the idea of the price, and so you wouldn't have seen that price because there was no price, and then that to me was a really good deal, and it's not typical. There was another very similar Luger, artillery Luger, for a good 1,000 more than that the guy had. So
Yeah, got to keep looking. And
yeah.
another place for a deal is, which I'm not used to, people walking around with guns on their backs.
Yep.
So you
Private
can get some good
sellers.
deals there. I've seen guys that don't know. The guy that had the trap door didn't even know what he had. So I could, if I really wanted to, I probably could have grabbed it for a deal. But it was a cut down borderized trap door. I didn't want that. Although it was an 1866. Those who know that knows that's a little rare. So we were talking earlier about a few funny and weird things that we saw, like the Edelweiss toilet paper that was Wehrmacht marked. That was pretty cool. And I saw the Vampire Hunter kit, which is pretty cool. I mean, as stupid as it is, with things for holy water.
Didn't they have one of
And
those on Pawn Stars or something like that, or one of those shows?
I think so. But the one that took the cake, I think, was the Carcano M91 long rifle that had a tag on it that said
Oh,
"Gun that
boy.
killed John Kennedy."
There it is.
That was the
That's the gun right there.
stupidest thing we saw.
For only $595.00.
$5.95, not even in quotes, not even like it's quote the gun that killed Kennedy. Nope, this is it. The rare Glock guys were there again. The Glocks guys, that was fun.
Rare Glocks are always neat.
But as far as rare guns, there's a Pedersen rifle that was laying here on the table that I played with, and a few AKs that were kind of rare. I only realized from talking to the guy.
Oh yeah, that Serbian one, I think.
Right, and there was a 41 Colt that was given to someone's grandfather by Buffalo Bill with some paperwork. But one of the rarest things there was that RSC that you brought to the show in your display, Jake.
So that was funny. My one of my co-workers, colleagues, partners in our group, had a table. Turns out he got an extra table. He is a Winchester guy. So this is the second time I've been to this show. This is the second annual Milsurp World Meetup at this show, right? The first one was the first annual
Yep,
or
first one was
inaugural.
last year.
Yeah. So that's where I met a lot of you guys, Tom and Kelly and Nick.
Yep.
All of you guys. But this show is an eclectic mix of all sorts of cultures of the gun history world, and so cowboy stuff.
Yeah, it really is.
Winchester guys, yeah, Winchester, Marlin, Colt, Smith and Wesson. So, and those are big dollar guns. Typically, older people get into that, but and he is one of those. But had some cool stuff. You got to see those too, right, Tom? His Winchester
Yep. I got
1866.
to hold them.
The Golden Boy. Oh yeah, I mean those are $20,000-$30,000 guns. They're pretty cool things. But yeah, so I put a lot of my stuff I was going to bring anyway onto a table, not really planning on this, and I had some cool stuff. I think that Johnson rifle was the only one at the show, I was told, and that always gets a lot of attention. And one of the cooler things I put on that table was one of the cheaper things, which was the Liberator pistol. I love that, and it's a little box. It's a replica box with all of the accoutrements that were sent with those.
That
so
got a lot of attention.
Yeah, and I saw people fiddling around with it, and that made me happy. I stopped and talked to some people about it and showed them some of the bits in the story if they didn't know. One of the guys, the Smith and Wesson guys that dress up, in the big tuxedo, he knew everything
Right.
about the Liberator pistol, and I was talking with him for 20 minutes about it. And
Yeah, so a good chunk of the show is displays, and they have a contest, and they kind of line the outside, and you were right next to the outside, and
yeah, yep.
one of
So
these guys were dressed as Smith and Wesson in period outfits, but they also had thousands of dollars worth of Smith and Wesson guns on their table.
right. So cool, the mix of everything. You get to see bits of everything in the history. And so unfortunately, I didn't really realize I'd be displaying this stuff. So I went to Walmart and got like that drop cloth. And for the table, he didn't have any. And so I was putting all this stuff up, and I didn't put any prices or tags or anything or nothing, that it was just display only, really. And my poor coworker, I left him there to sit there, and he was actually selling stuff too.
Well, let's
And
say you left them there with the display that's
yeah,
not for sale, with a very small, I don't even see it. Is there a not for sale sign here?
oh, he put one up later, thankfully, that poor guy. But he said,
But
Wallace,
okay.
you really tormented the crap out of a lot of people at this show, coming up every 5 minutes, like, as, hey, what's the price on that? Oh my gosh.
Right,
Like,
because you have an RSC sitting on top, a Russian 1895, a Winchester, and then laying just casually below there is a 41 Johnson U.S. Johnson rifle,
yeah.
and then the Luger is right there, a Luger pistol.
Yeah, that would
Yeah,
that
It's a
would
sick
bug
setup.
me as well. I'm like, oh, come on.
I
And
know, I
I'll
know.
just throw in the Liberator. Now it's a repro, but it looks real
Oh,
because they
look,
might as well be.
that's a real Liberator pistol.
Oh,
The
what is
box
it?
is the
Oh
box.
shit! All right, I was gonna say I couldn't tell anyway.
Yeah, the Liberator's
Oh,
original one.
so
And
that's a real Liberator,
oh yeah.
you left
There's
this
ways
poor
to
guy
tell.
there to say no, no, not for
He was
sale.
like, he was just like, said it was awful that everybody was coming up there bothering him about it. And I was off gallivanting around with you guys at the show looking for things. And
What did he say? Which was number one? Someone asked about how much.
um, I think the Russian Winchester,
Yeah,
1895.
I would think people think the RSC's out of their range anyway.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of people said, "Oh yeah, I've never seen one," and how cool is that to bring it and show it? That's the whole point of this. Like for me, putting this in a gun safe and in the back, just to say you have it, not so cool, I think, but to show. And I let people hold this. And, oh, you want to hold this thing? I don't care. This is
You let
why
us
I
shoot
do
it,
this.
which is
Yeah,
awesome.
you're not
All
the
right.
first person to hold it. You won't be the last.
No, yeah, I'm just currently its caretaker for some unknown amount of time, and
And I
but
did get to shoot all four of these technically. We shot the Krag
oh
Winchester,
right, yeah, that version of it, the Johnson rifle, we put
and we
some
shot a
rounds.
Johnson, the Luger. Yeah.
The Luger is actually I'm an air services related collector. That's the K umlaut U KU suffix Luger. So those are kind of the enigmatic Mauser made parts guns from a
was happy we
theorized
didn't
as a
break it.
depot. No, we didn't break it. It cycled mostly. And you got to that was your first time shooting a Luger, right?
Yes,
Oh, good.
100%. That was awesome. And
You
I was so curious. I was like, I know it's going to be quick, but am I going to notice it popping up in front of my eyes?
toggle. Yeah, we
And
didn't
I
crack the toggle.
only one time I saw it.
Yep.
My eyes
I
are that
mean,
quick. That's how great my eyes are. I'm sorry. My eyes are so quick. So good.
you'll have a tough time topping that Luger experience, unless it's like a Krieghoff or some crazy thing. But I mean, but hey, that's what these. I like to shoot these. I'm a shooter collector as well, so yeah, pretty
Yeah.
hilarious display. Tormented a lot of people, but they got to see those things. What else would I say? But yeah, Winchesters, the cowboy stuff, Smith and Wesson pistols. That guy
Oh,
had like
the ray gun display I really liked.
they had a toy gun display of all
Oh
these
yeah,
like
space
high
gun.
standard, yeah, the high standard stuff. Here you're scrolling through some Luger
Yeah,
carbines.
some
One of them has,
Hunter Lugers. I didn't know there was like one, and there's a wall of them at the show.
yeah, it's like what, five of them, and they're all different models. And that one in the middle has got GL on the back of the receiver. So Jorge Luger,
Whoa,
George Luger.
cool.
So
I
that
love
was
it.
one. It's a Borchardt that I was salivating over,
Yeah,
but
Borchardt.
um, that our friend with his finish.
Yeah, Milsurp
Mr.
Mike
Mike?
on YouTube did a Finnish Mosin Nagant display. And what was his award again? He won an award like
Like best up and coming or something
He
like
was
that.
the
yeah,
Right.
come
Rising Star.
the
Yeah.
Rising
Rising
Star.
there you go.
Shooting Star. Yeah.
He had every Finn Mosin model, major model. That was great. And one guy had SVT 40s and SVT 38s, which is insane. That was
And
one
see,
of my faves.
he has like 8 of them right there, right? I have one. I just have one. I'm not going to buy 8, but I appreciate the people that do. You can see them all next to each other and see the differences.
Yeah, those
Well, he just had not even just that. He had an SVT 40 carbine, which you
Oh,
don't.
Yeah, that
I've
was
never seen before.
That was crazy. That thing thumps.
right.
I
This is
mean,
better than a pattern collector because they're kind of different patterns. Like
yeah, bless them
it's
for
not
doing
just
that
different
because
years.
yeah, you can see all the differences. I don't really do that so much, but you really don't get to know the differences. Notice the differences in these guns markings until you get like 8 of them next to each other.
Right. Now, Nick, do you know which guy won first place?
I do.
Who was it? Let's
He
see.
was the Marlin engraved Marlins. I think he only had like 4 rifles, and they were all
Wow.
engraved. So
I think I remember that fancy looking rifles, but that's what wow. I
yeah, he was set up over by the Smith and Wesson guy.
I was a sucker for the Remington Lee U.S. contracts display table, the ones that you just seen in drawings of in the books. I don't know where these guys got them from. And then the U.S. military Winchester table,
Uh,
which was a crazy table. Lee Navies and Winchester 1917s and 1895s.
Not ignoring that golden boy, the 1866 lever
Wow.
gun. That counts as cowboy gun and a U.S. Marshall rifle, and put the early
That's
ones
right.
to
It is U.S.
the
military.
wall.
Yeah.
Yeah,
It's probably a trivia question about the first lever action in military service. And then we had, last but not least, here, Danny from Milsurp World put out a 2-table setup. He had a multi-table. He had a corner. He had his German uniforms up and his German medals and badges and his description cards all lined up. And he had a game where you could, how many is that? 3, 6, 9. So he had 10 rifles in gun socks, and we had to feel them up and molest them and put your fingers in all the holes and stuff and figure out what guns they were. And I think Kelly, you were wait, did you win it, Kelly?
I did win it
Shit.
actually.
Yeah, and they weren't easy ones. These weren't like, oh, it's a K98. No.
No, a couple of them were fairly easy.
Ah,
what did you win?
I won a book actually that I took
Oh,
home. I think it was French military pistols or something like that. One of the books Danny he just like had extras of that he's getting rid of. But yeah,
very
some of them
nice.
were pretty challenging, and watching Danny's videos definitely helped.
I got the
right.
Mosin. I got one. I got the Mosin.
Like a Turnbolt Monlicker was in there.
There's a Berthier in there, probably, right? I don't remember, but
There was like a naval special, and he had the like Remington Model 1934 that Honduras used, which is a 1917 with different sides.
Was
Japanese,
the RIC in there?
yeah, RIC, a Type I.
Yeah, so that was that. And actually, last is Aaron. I don't have the photos, but Aaron did, of course, Aaron from Milsurp World. If you know anything about him, you know he did M95 Mannlicher rifles. And he had a great display that you press the button to hear the translations. And he was angry, I think, that people weren't pressing it enough. Press it.
And then they gave him like some silly feedback of, "Oh, we didn't know what these were," even though there are signs like literally right next to the guns.
Yeah, he did a lot of work there. There was a lot of. I'm surprised they said that, but who knows? They probably didn't hit the buttons.
To be fair, the gun's name is like what 200 characters of word letters.
Toots and Utes and Carabine and Speen and
Gewehr,
Lean and Young and
something Gewehr.
I did not hear much Fudd lore and Fudd stories this year, but I overheard a few stupid things here. I thought I'd share. I heard it said the Mosin has 2 SA marks, which means it was captured twice. So, not sure about that one. No one wants 1911s anymore. I heard someone tell his friend. I don't think that's true. The guy walking around with a sporterized trapdoor rifle, an 1866 one, and the guy asked him, "What's that there? A Mosin?" But he was serious. It looks nothing like a Mosin. We looked at a low serial 1903. I think you were there, Kelly, and the guy said that's for display only because you can't shoot those.
yep, you can't shoot those.
Got one of those. Kind of funny. And I heard the M1 carbine was too weak, so that's why we got the M1 Garand. I don't think that's how that worked.
It wouldn't penetrate their winter coats. Yep.
Yeah. And I heard some odd terminology like the British guns have reverse spring bolts. That was kind of a weird way to say cock on close. Reverse spring bolts. A K98K was missing its sight cape.
Oh, that's a different term for it.
I was like, cavalry carbine on the tag said it was a TS cavalry short rifle. But I looked, it was just a regular cavalry carbine. I don't know what that TS cavalry short rifle is. A Châtellerault, or I'm bad at saying all these French names, but a Châtellerault, the guy said it's this one's a Châtellerault. So that was a lot different than me.
Could be worse.
And one guy said the pointy bullets were the Spetzel bullets. Yeah, the Spetzels.
The Spetzel.
With mustard. I like a Spetzel with mustard. But yeah, that JFK thing was probably the most fun thing around.
My favorite was when we were helping pack up. Some fellas strolled past and they were chatting. He's like, "Yeah, my buddy next to me, he had $100,000 worth of guns on the table and didn't sell a single one." Well, I bet I know why he didn't sell a single one.
Yep. Yeah, that sniper guy, he had all the same sniper rifles he had last show because he's not only over like a couple of hundred, he's over over 1,000 over, I think.
Double, triple, yeah.
Yeah, so but I did take advantage and look through all the scopes to see what I liked best and all that, and I made some notes, but that was the only good thing about him not selling anything. But poor guy wraps all those things up. He wraps them up well too. He wraps them up every show and drags them out.
I guess you only got to sell one to make your month.
I guess, but he doesn't even try to sell them. He doesn't talk me. He wasn't talking me into it. I don't know. All right, I have one last question here. What would be something you could do to make the gun show more exciting?
I definitely like Danny's game. That was pretty fun.
Yeah, like raffles, games, prizes, and shit like that are always fun.
Definitely got to do a
50-50s
scavenger hunt.
work. Ooh, a scavenger hunt.
Yeah, we should do one of those again. Or like last year we did the coolest thing under $20. Do that again.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, but what can the show do to make it more exciting? What about, I was thinking all the displays, if they were like more separated and like treated like a museum in a way, you might get more people coming through.
It is a little frustrating how they're all so spread out because like there's some I didn't even get to see because I never went to that part of the building.
Right. They were like on the complete opposite side. Yeah. But I don't know how else we can make it more fun. I guess giving away prizes and money.
Better prices.
Yeah, right.
I don't know how to make it more fun or exciting, but I really do like picking the brain of my cowboy era collectors, which I'm not as drawn to, admittedly. I I'm kind of getting more interested in them recently, but they're kind of expensive, so it keeps a lot of people out. But some of the history there, they can just rattle off the top of their heads, and some
Right.
sort of interaction with the military gun history crowd and the cowboy era action crowd, and some sort of like cross cultural, you know, event or something. Because it seems like it's two cultures there, you know.
Oh yeah, yeah, definitely a big kind of age difference between the Milsurp guys and the cowboy era guys.
Right, and they have different things they like, and a lot of those guys grew up in the era where that was just supremely the thing. Every kid read the books. Louis L'Amour's, my father-in-law, one of them. But yeah, and then they don't know a ton about the military stuff, but there's so much history to be learned from both sides, and I just love hearing all of it. But and that's the thing too, is that all those fancy guns I had, the military guns that are rare, you add them all up into one lump sum, for all of those five or whatever there were, that still cost less than one of those Marlins or one of those really rare Winchesters. Like those things, they can be $70,000.
And
So
we happen to be hanging out there all day, So how cool would it be if they said like at 12 o'clock, the West Samuel West and Wesson guy are going to give a presentation and show you it, and the Marlin guy at 12:30 is gonna talk for 15 minutes and show you each one. You know what I mean?
oh yeah,
And
right.
just point out the things that us going by and peeking at it is not telling us too much.
Like a little symposium. I mean, you have like
Yeah.
scheduled, it's like little talks, kind of really like a conference.
Yeah, little conferences like they do at trade shows where they're like
Yep.
different areas at different times or do their
Yeah.
presentation.
Be cool.
Yeah, that's a good idea. Could have, Milsurp Mike with his Finnish guns, the
Right,
Remington
and he
Lee
could just do
guy.
something as minimal as like, the Finns did it from this year to this year. Here's the first one. It was like this. Then they did it. Just go down them, and you'll
Yeah.
you'll take something just from that. Like, oh wow, okay, I get it. They didn't make any receivers of their own. That's crazy.
Yeah. What do you think, Nick? That's
Yeah, Nick, you're on the board.
You're in charge, right?
I'm in charge.
So actually, we are actually looking at potentially a new venue for next year.
Oh shit.
So
All right.
we're kind of reaching out to some places. It's actually would be closer to my house.
Nice.
So
Wait,
no.
wait, guys, we're in the association also. We could propose things.
yeah,
You know?
absolutely. Yeah, since you're all in the club, yeah, you can
Think of some
all
events
send
and
stuff
some
in. Or,
things. But yeah, even if it was like
but
an hour of the day and everyone had 10 minutes, that's you can get a lot done.
yeah, no, I
Sh-
kind of like how you had Kelly. Where you agree where everything should be, all the displays should be in like a separate room or something. That'd be nice to see. And I think with the new venue we're kind of looking at, that's possible to do. Um, so that's something that we're kind of thinking about. But yeah, no, we've had different ideas come up, and we're kind of talking about that every meeting. We have a little show committee meeting every month, so there's all sorts of different ideas that are coming out.
All right. Got that to look forward to the next year.
Yeah, I know we had a bit. I think we had about the same amount of guys this year as we did last year. I'm hoping we can get some of our foreigners. It'd be awesome to get Samuel to come over.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
So that'd be kind of cool. And,
We got to go over there. When I met up with him, we went to
yeah,
the Vienna Military Museum. They have an incredible World War One section.
All right. Milsurp World Discord trip to Vienna. Let's go.
Let's do it. Best museum I've been to. Military museum, at least.
I'm
All right.
always game.
All right, boys and gals.
Oh wait, I think we had one more question.
Oh.
If you would do a display at a gun show, what would you do?
Yeah, with your current inventory.
I was thinking about this. I was like, what could I show of all my stuff? I accumulate too much. It's kind of all over the place and kind of one of everything. The air services related guns of various theaters in different countries might be actually one of them. I'd have enough to do most of the things. I might have to buy another thing or two to really kind of be like, well, why didn't you have this or that? But so maybe that.
That'd be a
That's
cool
cool.
one.
All right, next year.
I could do some Mauser evolutions and shit. I have enough iterations of Mausers from the first ones to the last one, so maybe I could do
expect
something like
nothing.
that, but nothing crazy though. I don't no
You'd, ex-
3340s.
you'd expect nothing less from you, Tom, for that. Mauser
Exactly.
education. So.
I'd have to represent the Mausers. It's a lot to drag out, though.
Yeah, you're gonna need a big truck. Nick, what would you do?
My dad and I actually plan on one next year.
Uh-oh.
So we're looking at doing the evolution of the 1903.
Oh, that's cool.
So,
Yeah.
Whoa.
But
he actually
You
just
can't
finished a
shoot those
project.
low serial ones. You can't shoot those.
I beg to differ. I've shot a low number plenty of times. But no, he actually just finished a project of a very, I would say clone, but a very high end clone of a
Sniper.
1903 A1 sniper. So
Ooh.
that was kind of a cool project to get finished up. We don't have a ramrod one.
You need a
03, which
Pedersen
would be
mag.
you don't see those. Yeah, that's one of the only 03s we're missing is a Mark One. And there was one at the show I looked at, but the bore's pretty well shot out, so I kind of passed
It's
on
still
that.
pretty cheap.
But that's
They get
it
treated
was
as
still a pretty good price.
as worse than wartime ones or
Yeah.
whatever. So they can get them cheap still.
Yeah. And that's the thing is if that's the only one we're missing, if we decide to do the display next year, it's something we can find and we can pick one up. And then we have every manufacturer of the 03 and 03A3. So we could pretty much cover from the beginning all the way to the 03A3. I have an 03A4. So I could talk about the World War II sniper as well
and
as my dad's
settle
World War
when
I
the
sniper.
Parkerizing started and the differences in bluing.
Yep,
and
we'd
all-
have all of them.
all the heat treat.
We have quite a few of the different
Heat
bayonets
treatments.
used.
nickel, all that crap.
Yep,
I always
so-
forget.
Do you have one in the 30-03?
I do
fridge?
not. We're looking for one. We've seen a couple. So we don't have one yet. Something we're thinking about even building here soon is a gentleman called Raycom Projects just did a 1905 Bolo. So we're
Oh,
looking at doing one of
very
those. He built one. You don't see many originals. Original ones are almost impossible to find. So we're looking at building one as well. Just actually want to book this last weekend that actually has the whole schematics for that drawn in the book and all the measurements. So we'll be able to take measurements and make that, and that's gonna be a cool project. So no, that's definitely what we're thinking maybe for next year. If we don't do that next year, I might do a big setup with all my original World War II gear that a paratrooper would have used. So kind of not
Oh,
a
yeah.
firearms side of the display, but kind of a cool offshoot display, kind of like what Danny does with his German medals.
Right. That's still cool. What about you, Kel? World War One?
Yep, World War One. I could do like an alright World War II display, but I almost have a rifle and pistol for every major and minor power for World War One. The only thing I'm missing pretty much is it's a big one, but I don't have a U.S. pistol yet, just because they're kind of pricey, and I'm cheap.
And
But,
wait, which one is that? The 1917 pistol? What is it?
Either a 1911 or a 1917 revolver, which I'm kind of impartial to the revolver just because I like revolvers, and I already have a World War II 1911, so they won't be that vastly different.
If you
So
wanted
that-
to do that display, Kelly, I have a 1917 you could borrow.
I know I held it and didn't want to sell it.
Exactly.
Ah,
Nah,
So
I
yeah,
got too good of a deal. It's got the guy's name on the inside, so I'm not selling that.
yeah, that's the current top on my list is a 1917 revolver.
all right. We'll think about doing them at displays in the future. I can't lug all my shit to KC though, so I'll I'll watch you guys. All right. So we shared our summer reports and we're awaiting our grades, and I'm hoping for a C at least. So let's get out of here. I of course want to thank you fellas for coming on and telling us about your wonderful trips and letting me live through you. Might be a number of years before I get to go anywhere near where you guys went, so I'm living through you guys. Thank you.
Hey, I can't be happier to hear people appreciate the history and sharing it. Is what's the point if you don't?
Right. It's so easy in America. Our history doesn't go back that far. So you could be a crazy US history buff, but shit,
Yep.
Europe is nuts.
Yeah, I definitely need to do some more Milsurp travel.
Right. There's a list about 100 long of, World War One battle sites, World War II battle sites, Civil War sites I haven't gone to yet. I got a lot of places on my list.
So much history, so little time.
Exactly. Kelly, good show, dude, as always.
Yep. Thank you all for coming on and wasting a few hours with us.
Don't forget to check out our Patreon and our YouTube channel. Keep up with what we're up to. And now that we're back in America, we'll be putting out more content. Stop jet setting for the winter, like animals.
Actually, I got a trip next week.
All right, he's going next week. Oh well, we're back. Anywho, all right. Thanks for listening, all. Thanks, Jake. Thanks, Nick. Adios.
Adios. Buenas noches.
Perfect.